Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk, and welcome back, everybody, to the second part of the council meeting for today. The next item on the agenda is delegations received regarding the indoor soccer facility investigations, item 313.9, and we have a number of delegations, 16 in total. The first one to come to the podium is Diarmid Salvadori on behalf of the Richmond Hill Soccer Club. Thank you for your patience and everybody else that was waiting to delegate today. So, Mr. Salvadori, you've got 5 minutes to address council.
I think there's a presentation. I'm not sure where. Oh, there we go.
It's up on the screen. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor West, Deputy Mayor DePaula, members of council and staff. My name is Diarmid Salvadori, president of the Richmond Hill Soccer Club. I've been a proud Richmond Hill resident for over 30 years. I can't believe that it's been 10 years since I last stood before you on a similar endeavor, and I thank you for the opportunity to present today. I have a short presentation, and then we'll be pleased to answer any questions at the end. So we can move to the next slide, please. This is an old slide. Well, just to give you a little bit of background information on who we are, Richmond Hill Soccer Club is the largest community not-for-profit organization in the city and one of the largest clubs in York Region, with over 5,000 players registered annually. We provide a wide range of programs for children through to masters players. Over 75% of our players are Richmond Hill residents. We work with local schools and other not-for-profit organizations and fund over $30,000 of subsidies annually to ensure that every child has a chance to play. I can just have the slides, they moved up. Yeah, the next one, please. So our vision, love the game, develop the person, excel in all we do. From their first steps on the field, we want everybody to love the beautiful game. We develop good people. Future healthcare workers, teachers, and dare I say politicians through teamwork and social interaction, physical and mental development. In terms of development, we continue to raise the bar and provide excellence in all our programs. We embrace diversity as it's reflected in our girls program, the first of its kind in the province to help Muslim girls to play and be active. Even through COVID, we were recognized for excellence in our online programming by Ontario Soccer. Next slide, please. We were one of only 30 clubs across the country who attained National Canada Youth Licensing Certification, which focuses on governance, programming, staffing, and a host of different metrics. We were also awarded the Not-for-Profit Organization of the Year last year by the Richmond Hill Board of Trade for our ongoing work in the community. Next slide, please. We have a really positive working relationship with city staff, and we are major users of fields and facilities. We also work together to help deliver camp programs in partnership with the city, whereby the city provides administrative support and we provide qualified coaching staff. Next slide, please. Just to highlight some of the financial contributions that the club has made to the city over the years. In prior years, we contributed $250,000 to help in the construction of Richmond Green East. We also purchased nearly $50,000 in new goal posts that enabled the city to replace a significant number of wooden posts with new goals that are safer and reduce maintenance. At the expense of several $1,000s annually, we also set up and take down the nets each year and replace them when needed. And these goals are used by all residents, not just Richmond Hill players. We're proud of the fact that we are significant contributors to this city, and we'll continue to invest for the benefit of all our residents. Next slide, please. I would like to thank and recognize the hard work and effort put in by staff in developing the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Plan. We are very supportive of the priority to construct an additional indoor facility, which will provide opportunities for thousands of residents to be active and healthy. I do want to highlight that just prior to COVID, we contracted over $50,000 of time at a facility in Vaughan to meet our ongoing training time needs. With the use of Richmond Green also as a vaccination center through COVID and minimal access to indoor space, should the pandemic and that type of situation continue to occur, an additional facility would provide additional capacity that's required now and would also provide additional space should there be future restrictions down the road. Next slide, please. And I'd like to introduce some of our Richmond Hill alumni to you. Quinn and Nichelle Prince were part of the gold medal winning team in Tokyo. And Alistair Johnson is on his way to the World Cup in Qatar after a 36-year wait. Why do I bring this up? Well, there's huge momentum in soccer. It's been consistently in the news, and it's going to bring more participants. In addition, soccer is a game of immigrants. As the city grows through immigration, these facilities will become increasingly important for the integration of newcomers.
Okay, so your time is up, Mr. Salvadori. So your wrap up.
Yep. I finally just next slide is just a little thank you to everyone at the city for their support of this initiative. Dare to Dream is our motto, not only for the players to succeed, but I challenge the city to dare to dream with this facility. On a personal note, I know how challenging the last few years have been for everyone. As elected officials and staff, I know that no matter which decisions were made, there was always criticism. And I sincerely want to thank everyone for their efforts through COVID and continuing to provide quality services and continuing to keep our residents safe.
Great. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Next on the agenda is Lutfi Askander, who I believe is with us. Mr. Askander, thank you for waiting.
Thank you. First and foremost, welcome, congratulations, Councillor Shepherd. Ladies and gentlemen of council, we know why we're here. As Mr. Salvadori just brought it up, we need more facilities in town of Richmond Hill. We've all read the report, and there shouldn't be a single doubt that we need to find and create new fields for our members here. So how can we be certain? Because the largest group in Richmond Hill is asking for more fields. That's we know there's a big shortage of them. I'm here on behalf of Kickoff GTA. Yes, a for-profit organization that believes in doing the right thing, even when it's not financially feasible to do so. Due to the pandemic in 2020, we generated only 22% revenue than the previous years. While businesses were laying employees off, keeping every dollars they had, we kept our staff on board and found ways to have them deliver programming online. In the last 24 months, we refunded over $65,000 to families that were asking for their money back. Every single person that asked for a refund was given a full refund within 5 business days because we understood the challenges that families were facing. I ask that you Google us and read the 5-star reviews to understand the way we operate. Every single decision we make is in the best interest of our community because we understand the importance of community. More importantly, we understand that sports provide children with the life skills they require to become successful adults. In 2019, we came to the city with our problem. We had hundreds of signatures on a petition. We created reports and were referred directly to the commissioner. All we were asking for was field time. We just wanted one field to provide services for, at that time, our 900 members. After constantly being turned down, ignored, and brushed off, Council probably took notice and appreciated the disadvantages that we faced. I shared many of those disadvantages during the last council meeting. This motion has been 3 years in the making for us. I chose not to bring out 100 delegates today because I don't want to waste your time anymore. You have seen us here over and over again, and it's obvious that this city needs an indoor facility for all of our members and all of our groups. I have the utmost respect for Mr. Salvadori and what he's accomplished with the Richmond Soccer Club. Same with Mr. Footy and Oak Ridge Soccer Club. We have similar problems, but they're not the same. They need more fields and more time. We just have nothing. We just want something. This is my life's work, and I understand that it takes a village to raise a child. We are all in this together to help these children learn and grow through football. We are open to collaborations, working with one another and sharing. But right now, we have absolutely nothing to share. We don't have a single hour to share. We have hundreds of families committed to us right now without a single field to offer them. During the last council meeting, I made it evident that we were being penalized for being a small business. We were going to take action. Are we going to take action right now or continue down this road? Everything we've done to get here to bring attention to the disadvantages that we faced have gone absolutely nowhere. We have made a commitment last time to a substantial amount of weekly hours in the new facility if it's constructed. We have made a financial offer. The city of Richmond Hill needs another indoor facility. Please make the decision that's in the best interest of our city keep our families local, our community growing, and the city generating revenue for decades to come. Because if we build it, they will come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next person on the agenda is Brenda Fernandes. Ms. Fernandes, I think I see you on the screen there. If you want to just unmute yourself and turn your video on, you can start.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me or do you hear?
Hold on a sec, Ms. Fernandes. We're getting terrible feedback. I wonder if you have two devices on.
No, I just have my computer.
Okay, sorry, we don't know what's going on there, Ms. Fernandes, but we seem to have fixed it. So go ahead. Sorry about that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Good morning or good afternoon, Mayor West and members of council. My name is Brenda Fernandes and my son is Marcus Cruz. He's been playing with Kickoff since he was 6 years old, since 2018. When my son joined Kickoff, he learned confidence, resiliency, skill, talent, responsibility, and respect for others. Our family finds great value and are extremely committed to Kickoff because we see the foundations and strength exemplified in Kickoff, its academy director, and its skilled coaches in our kids today. Belonging to a team, playing the sport, learning responsibility, accountability, being cohesive in a team is a developmental aspect every kid should have the opportunity to learn and achieve. It teaches the boys life skills and how to carry themselves in the real world. Kickoff has done that for our boys. Kickoff has done that for my boy. So please help me understand why our boys are not able to represent the city of Richmond Hill the way they should. Help me understand why while we travel all over York region, why we are not able to host our own games in the city of Richmond Hill. Why are our home games played in one of 3 soccer domes in East Markham? Please show me ways on how I should answer those parents of opposing teams who have piqued interest in our team at Kickoff, where our home grounds are. As a mom of 3 kids, all in sports, it is easy to find homes in Richmond Hill for dance, hockey, and volleyball. Why is it so hard to find a home for one of the most successful clubs in our YRSL league? All we are asking is for a place to play for our kids, to have this place inside our home in Richmond Hill where we can attract talent, start grassroots, and build foundation in our kids, so we can increase physical health, which leads to positive mental health and development in our sports community. We don't want to fall behind strong municipalities like Vaughan, Markham, and Mississauga, who can develop the best talent and representation because they have the facilities to support such growth. The sport of soccer, represented by Canada, is growing exponentially now, and we want our kids in our city to represent such growth. There is a dome in Richmond Hill, but we can't use it. I don't remember my son ever playing a YRSL game inside that dome. So please help me explain to our sons and to our kids why such a successful team representing Richmond Hill doesn't have facilities to represent us. Providing a facility to our boys to play, to represent our community is needed. We are running out of space and we need our kids out there. Thank you very much, Mayor and the members of council. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. Next person on the agenda is Lugo Huang. My apologies if I'm not saying that properly. Oh, okay, not there. Okay, going to the next person, Lisa Balsamo.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Mr. Mayor West, and members of council. Thank you for having me today. Our family has been living in Richmond Hill for over 15 years, and we have been a part of the KO family for over 5 years. In this time, we have been able to build a soccer community based on our love of soccer, our desire for growth and development of our children through sport, and for our shared values and beliefs. We host team events at local businesses. We engage in community events. We even won the 2019 Richmond Hill Santa Claus Parade for Best Float. We are completely immersed in our community and we generate income for the city. So why, may I ask, why are we continually being hit with roadblocks? Why is our growth being prevented? If the answer, or the unspoken answer, is to keep a monopoly in soccer in Richmond Hill, then you are potentially turning your backs on these young athletes whose passion is to play soccer with their KO family. You are also turning your back on this local business that would otherwise be generating revenue for Richmond Hill through the many events and tournaments that could be sponsored. These future athletes should be able to thrive in Richmond Hill with the club they love, doing what they love, playing soccer. Instead, you are turning your backs on them and denying Richmond Hill the opportunity to be known as an emerging power in York Region soccer. Besides KO's said contributions as being an organization committed to providing best-in-class training, coaching, and developing personal growth to our athletes, its other contributions are being completely overlooked. Another thriving soccer club will cast a much wider net to even more people from surrounding areas to Richmond Hill for games and tournaments. These same people will eat in our local restaurants and shop in our local stores, thus increasing revenue to Richmond Hill. Much like what we do when we are forced to continually travel outside our city to play soccer. This is what sports brings to a community. So why is KO being stopped? Is it fear of overstepping on other soccer clubs? If that's it, that makes no sense. There is no doubt that all these other soccer clubs are great clubs. But more competition in terms of soccer clubs will only mean a growing soccer community for Richmond Hill as a whole. We should be welcoming new groups in competition, not discouraging them by denying them access to facilities. One club should not be given a monopoly to operate, as is true in any other business sector. We pay our dues, and we should be afforded equal opportunity and access to facilities. So once again, I ask you, why are you stopping KO from continuing to grow when there is a demand in this community for it to flourish? Soccer is growing at exponential speed in Canada. Allow us to be part of this growth. We need more facilities, plain and simple, and we urge you to act on this request. Thank you very much for your time and for listening.
Thank you very much. The next person is Alex Kluchuk. Go ahead, Alex.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, dear council. I'm here to tell you that the city of Richmond Hill needs a second soccer bubble in the city. My son, who is 10 years old, has been part of the Kickoff Soccer Club, the club that proudly represents the city of Richmond Hill for several years now. The amount of travel that we had to do because of the lack of the readily available adequate soccer field locally has been taxing on the kids, coaches, and their families. We play our home games in Markham and Woodbridge right now. Why not in Richmond Hill? This can be easily and inexpensively corrected if the city agrees to put up a second soccer bubble. Soccer has never been so popular in Canada as it is right now, with our national teams playing at the highest level, men's national team going to the World Cup in Qatar, and women's team winning the Olympics. There's a huge interest and demand from the public in Richmond Hill to have a second soccer bubble in order to have a reliable, all-season soccer facility. I do not have soccer participation rates among children and adults in Ontario, but I suspect it is a lot higher than hockey. Installing a second bubble will allow to get more children on the soccer field. I don't know how expensive it will be to put up a second bubble. This council should have the estimated costs, as there is an existing soccer bubble in Richmond Green Park already. It is my understanding that it would not require a lot of maintenance once it's up and running. However expensive it might be to put up a second soccer bubble, it would be a very good use of public money, helping our kids' physical development and improving their mental health. In conclusion, we're talking about soccer here, the most popular sport in the world by a wide margin. I play drop-in soccer in the soccer bubble at Richmond Green Park regularly, and it is always, always packed with people. The demand is there. Putting up a second soccer bubble would be a very good investment for the residents of Richmond Hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. The next person is Lara Assal. Go ahead when you're ready, Lara.
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me?
We certainly can.
Perfect. Hi. Hi, everybody. My name is Lara. My children, aged 8 and 10, have been part of Kickoff community for over 4 years now. Although we live in Markham, we decided to join KO because of the leadership and the vision of the program director, Coach Lutfi. Coach Lutfi and his team are great with the children, and they care for much more than the soccer development of the kids. They're being taught to think for themselves, make decisions, succeed as individuals, while always remembering the overall success of the team. Unfortunately, the main issue over the last 4 years has been the lack of stability in field access. We have had to drive all over the GTA, and the schedule has always been the drawback. I can go on about how much driving, but you've already heard about all that. With that being said, we strongly believe for a community as large as Richmond Hill, that one dome predominantly used by one soccer club doesn't serve the community properly. For a small business such as Kickoff to succeed and keep growing, another facility is vital. My husband and I are both business owners, and as small business owners, we want to see other hardworking Canadian business owners succeed. We feel it is your responsibility as a city council to create the infrastructure and opportunities for hardworking citizens to succeed. And in this case, a new facility is a great service to this municipality. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. The next person is Michael Balsamo. Okay, sorry, Mr. Balsamo's not there. Jennifer De Silva. I see you on the screen there, Ms. De Silva. Go ahead when you're ready.
Hi, can you hear me?
We certainly can.
Perfect, thank you. We've been with Kickoff for 9 years now and can't imagine having to ever play with anyone else. Unfortunately, though, for the entire 9 years now, we've constantly had to answer to, wow, these kids are amazing. Where are you guys from? And, we reply Richmond Hill with big smiles on. Meanwhile, we're really hoping that they don't ask for any location or schedule details since we've never actually had a field there. So watching these kids' development flourish over the years so much faster than other kids their age has been one of the most satisfying moments as a parent. Kickoff has not only provided them a second family of lifelong friends and brotherhood, but has helped raise them into well-mannered, respectful little men because of our aligned values and beliefs. They push our kids to set goals and actually follow through with them while always striving for them to be their best. To say having a lack of field schedules and organization in that matter has made our lives impossible is a complete understatement. After all these years of driving to every other city to play, from Stouffville, Markham, Woodbridge, Milton, even Oshawa, you've heard this over and over. These kids deserve a second home close to their actual homes and some kind of normalcy in their lives, especially during today's world. Having grown up playing competitive soccer myself, I can assure you that from what I've seen and heard, there is no other soccer program out there like Kickoff. They, like anyone else, deserve a fair and equal chance to touch as many more hearts of the children in Richmond Hill as they can and not be forced out of our own city. In regards to indoor time, let me be really clear. We are not talking about waiting a few days, weeks, or months here for a spot. We're not talking about creating a small space for a small number of people that at least, have some kind of makeshift options right now. We're talking about a really large space needed for a local 10-year business, which has never been given a second of field times per week, let alone minutes or hours. Anyone who has grown up playing soccer understands that there is nothing better for these kids' mental health, development, or life skills. And most importantly, as a parent, the best way to keep our kids safe and out of trouble is soccer. So please remember that this is about giving hundreds and hundreds of kids a warm, safe, and consistent space close to home to get together with their friends, clear their minds, and do what they love to do most, which is play soccer. I'd also like to mention the obvious in case you weren't already aware that this soccer academy is sanctioned through Ontario Soccer Association and a member of the York Region Soccer League, which brings people in from all over the province as well. With all that being said, given the uniqueness of this academy, it doesn't surprise me that Kickoff still manages to have players trying out from all over the province all the time, hoping to secure a spot to be trained by Coach Lutfi himself here in Richmond Hill. Thank you again for your time, and I truly hope you understand that children are the future and the importance of allowing and showing these kids that there is no sort of favoritism of any kind in this city, and that they will in fact get equal field time to continue to do what they love most 5 days a week is so important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next person is Sarah Almraf. Sarah, go ahead when you're ready.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much for your time today. So my name is Sarah, and I've been a part of Kickoff GTA for 7 years. I manage the marketing and initiatives, as well as I am Coach Lutfi's wife. This is not my full-time job. However, I am very invested into this business. So I have witnessed Kickoff GTA grow in the last 7 years. However, the lack of stability, field access has been the biggest hurdle for Kickoff GTA to grow as a small business in Richmond Hill. Kickoff GTA has been committed to developing children and teaching them the life skills they require to succeed. I can also tell you that Kickoff's main goal is to develop the children physically and mentally. When COVID hit in 2020, Kickoff was agile and they changed their programming to online training, encouraging kids to get off the couch, get off their personal devices, and stay physical. This wasn't done to make revenue, as you can imagine, but the goal of that is to ensure the community and the kids especially stay healthy and to ensure the staff were still getting paid some sort of money to make ends meet. Kickoff has built something incredible, and what it needs is a fair chance amongst everyone else to grow and to stay local within Richmond Hill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next person is is George and Maggie Caron.
Hello, thank you for having me. Just wanted to know if you guys can hear me.
We can hear you.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is George Soron. My wife, unfortunately, she's at work right now, but I'm speaking on behalf of both of us. We just like to say that our kids have been involved with Kickoff for about 5 years now. It is such a great program led by such a great guy in Coach Lutfi Iskander. We're not residents of Richmond Hill, but we were lucky enough to hear of this Richmond Hill business from another friend, and we've been so happy. It's such a great program that we want to stick to. We want it to succeed, and we would like, as people have mentioned before, a home facility, which would really help develop our children, mostly Richmond Hill children as well. But I feel like myself is an example of something that can be attained by your investment. You know, a resident from other areas coming into Richmond Hill to invest in small businesses. I live in an area in Woodbridge where soccer clubs and fields are a dime a dozen, and I still chose to stick with Coach Lutfi Iskander and the Kickoff program and invest in Richmond Hill. And by investing yourselves in Richmond Hill, council in allowing the more home space on an actual local club, it would bring a lot more investment to the city. And I feel like most councillors and yourself, Mayor, that's exactly what you'd want, is to invest in your own city. And Kickoff is such a great program. My kids have most of their lives have been involved with it, and they have grown into such great boys. I have nothing but good things to say. Like many people have said, soccer is one of the most popular sports in the world, and we want what's to say the next great soccer player for Canada doesn't come out of Richmond Hill. But that doesn't happen unless we invest in small businesses like Kickoff, like getting us that home field. Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it, my wife and I.
Thank you. We appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. Mr. Silke Sing is the last person on the agenda today for this item. Go ahead, Silke, when you're ready.
Hi, everyone, dear members of council. I guess I echo everything that everybody said. My son has been with Kickoff GTA since he was 4 years old. We were recommended by a friend, and he's been there since then. And so I guess personally how I felt is with the sport itself, it helps kids in so many ways to grow as a person. My kid personally, ever since he's been with Kickoff, because of the philosophy that Kickoff has, they always care for the boy, and not just in soccer. It has helped him tremendously in life. So when he's falling off on the field, what does he do? He gets back up. He applies that in life. So he's been there all these years, and I can see that the dedication that coach has put in the team in training people to be the best they can be at everything they do, where it be soccer or just in life. It's important that he continues to be able to instill the philosophy with other boys. But I've seen within the last 5 years, he's not been able to grow the business because of the limitations that everybody has mentioned. You know, we live right by the soccer dome, Richmond Green Soccer Dome, right by the next street. And we would pass by that every day. And my son would always ask me, why are we not playing there? And I said, I can't answer that. You know, we would go Monday to Stouffville and then Friday to Aurora for a practice, but we're a Richmond Hill club and we're not playing where we should be. So I think getting the field will help the boys feel a sense of belonging that they already do, but the fact that there's a community that they can continue to excel in, that will be very helpful for just soccer in general, or just to invest in children in general. So I think that is something that I understand there's also cost and financials that are related, but in terms of just the well-being of our kids, you know, we don't want them to have myopia. We don't want them sitting there playing video games all day, but they need a place to play. And in order for that to happen, we need a place. So thank you everybody for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Sang. Okay, that exhausts our speakers list for delegations. I would like to bring this back to council now, and this is item 13.9, indoor soccer facility. And Councillor Pirelli, Regional Local Councillor Pirelli, this was your motion initially, so we'll give you go to you first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to all the delegates. I know there's hundreds of you out there that will be watching this later. Obviously, most of you had commitments to be at work. You know, Coach Lutfi came to me years ago and said, Carmine, I've got this program. I'm having difficulty trying to get a field in Richmond Hill. I'm a Richmond Hill club. And that's where the relationship started. You know, I referred him to our staff. And our staff, for whatever the reason is, were unable to ensure Coach that he could have a stable location, a home field to play and practice in Richmond Hill. And I'm really amazed at how this person and this organization has kept together all of these years with this instability, as was mentioned by Lara, who spoke well about the stability of this club. And it would be a shame for, you know, alternative things to happen, such as the club would fail, or the club would have to move to another jurisdiction. You've heard, members of council, you've heard this time and time again. This is about supplying facilities for up to 1,000 kids. You know, they were at 900 with the instability. With stability, I'm sure that this organization could grow to 2,000 kids. The whole objective of moving this agenda item forward was to find them a home, whatever it took to find them a home, be it bubbled or not bubbled. They need something. And I guess we throw ourselves on the mercy of this council, because one person alone can't do it. I can assure you that if this was one of the businesses that I own, I would have built this bubble this year. And now knowing that Richmond Hill Soccer Club needs more space, I would have asked them what they need, and I would build that for them. It's a no-brainer to any business, any businessman or woman, that when you have a demand, you provide the supply. That's all we have to do. When we bubbled the Richmond Green field, we had, it was full all the time. It's revenue positive. We're actually making money. We have $70 million in reserves dedicated for this kind of stuff. And here we are. And I don't want to criticize staff, and I don't want to criticize council, and I don't want to point fingers. I just want a solution. And I don't want it to take 10 years. If you look at page, I think it's 107 of the Culture, Recreation, and other report, you'll find that, there was a big demand years ago, and we didn't meet that demand, and we're behind now. Other municipalities have to take us in like orphans, right? Our residents in Richmond Hill, we're one of the wealthiest communities in the country. And we're going somewhere else, and we're failing our children and our taxpayers. So, I don't know what the solution is. So I'll ask through you, Mr. Mayor, to staff. Do we have a solution?
Okay, Councillor, do you want to direct that to anybody in particular, or we could direct it to our city manager, at least to start, and she can pass that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have a report as requested in front of you today that talks about the indoor soccer facility investigations that we were directed to. The key directions report for the Parks, Recreation and Culture Plan also speak to the need for additional soccer fields and the need for an additional second dome facility. So the report does support that. And I'll defer to Councillor or to Commissioner Kwan for further comment.
The Commissioner.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to build on what the interim city manager has said. This similar, I don't want to rehash something, but similar to the pickleball debate. We're talking about a facility that is land intensive and is a fairly significant addition to our parks and recreation inventory. As such, considerable investigation needs to be done. And I can assure council that ongoing work has been undertaken over the years. And as indicated in the staff report, we have done a cursory analysis of sites that may become available or potential for this future use. And, I think it's clearly outlines the challenges that each and every site has. There's always a challenge with the sites and a question of picking the site ultimately and continuing the investigation and getting council's endorsement of potential sites and then bringing forward business cases on a budgetary item.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor Pirelli.
Okay, so the question was, do we have a solution? Please stop the clock. The question was, do we have a solution? Is that a yes or a no? Do we have a location picked to put 11v11 artificial turf with a bubble? Do we have that solution? That was my question. I read the report. I understand what the report. I did not see a solution in the report. My question is, do we have a solution, or do we have more questions than we have an answer to? That's the question. Do we have a solution? Because if we don't, then I'm going to try to come up with a solution.
Okay. I'll put that to our staff. I think, as you said in the staff report, I think the staff report outlines the steps that staff is going to be taking toward a solution. But interim city manager, Mr. Kwan, would.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe your summary is fairly accurate, and as outlined in the staff report, as per recommendation B, there is not a site that is available at this point in time, but staff will continue our investigations.
Okay, thank you. So the answer is we don't have a solution to the problem. So first question is, you've identified the second field at Richmond Green, and you've said you can't bubble it because it's too close. How close?
Staff?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll actually defer the question to Director Lee, who was the one of the authors of the report.
Okay, over to you, Director Lee.
Through the chair, the West Soccer Field is immediately adjacent to the East Field, probably about, I'm going to say 4 or 5 meters or even less. And what I understand from our operations staff is the challenge is snow melts off the bubble, slides down to the side of the bubble and piles up in a snowbank. And if there's just one bubble there, well, it's easy enough. You clear away the snow bank. But all of a sudden, if you have 2 bubbles side by side, then you have snow coming down off of both the bubbles, and it piles up. And because of the close proximity, I believe you would have pressure on both bubbles put by the snowbanks in between the 2 bubbles. I'm kind of not the technical expert, on the bubbles, but that's what's been explained to me. And hence the feeling is that there's not really enough room to bubble over the West Field because it's too close to the East Field.
With the greatest of respect, my question was, how close? How close? Why is it too close? How much space do we need?
Well, once again, I'm not the technical expert, and if someone like Mr. Hearn has a little better handle, I understood that the bubbles would, if you bubbled over the West Field, you may have 3 meters, maybe less, between the 2 bubbles. But I see Mr. Hearn's on the call. Maybe he's got a little bit better or more detailed answer than I do.
Mr. Hearn?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Lee actually covered the answer fairly well. So it's my understanding the same as Mr. Lee's, that the bubbles would be too close, and certainly neither of us would be the experts on the technical aspect of how far those domes need to be apart.
So can I please have the question answered by someone who has the answer? If I'm going to read in a report that the reason it's not possible is too close, I need to know what the answer is as to what is far enough. I mean, it's just a simple question.
Okay, I'm not sure. I'm kind of hearing from staff that I don't think they have the specific distance answer for you, but over to you, staff. Is there additional information that they could have, that we can give the councillor at this time anyway? Mr. Kwan?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we don't have the physical information about the separation between the 2 fields, but I believe what staff is alluding to is that an engineering investigation would have to be undertaken in order to see what mitigative measures would have to be employed to deal with this physical issue of snow load between the domes.
So through you, Mr. Chairman.
If it was at all possible.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, is it the snow that's the issue, the only issue before us?
Mr. Kwan?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe that would be the only issue, but drainage and whatever stability issues need to be had between the domes. And between two structures. So whatever is involved in that engineering investigation, in addition to soils analysis and stability of the sites to handle the structures.
So it is possible to bubble this field, is what you're saying, Commissioner?
Mr. Mayor, all I'm saying is that investigation would have to be undertaken regarding the feasibility and the costs.
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to find a solution here, and I'm not getting a lot of help. Obviously, I have to go to a second round because of these draconian time limits. But it says here in your report that it's not possible. A bubble is not possible because of the proximity. I would have hoped you had concrete evidence and did the engineering before you gave such a definitive answer that it's not possible.
Okay, your time is up, Councillor, but I don't know if there's any additional information from staff to that last question. Okay, seeing none, I'll go to Councillor, Regional Local Councillor DePaulo. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Do you have a motion that you would like to?
Yes, I'd like to move the staff recommendations in A and B. The staff continue to investigate opportunities and locations for indoor soccer facilities and report back in Q3 of 2022. They've recommended that time frame, and it's aggressive. Then they're going to be back to us before the end of this term with a report. I don't think we can ask for any more. I really hope that the local Richmond Hill Soccer Association gets this field into place for that we have a soccer bubble in the winter, that our local group can get the field time that it desperately needs. As far as this one councillor's endeavor to assist a business, whether it's local or York region based or whatever it is, I don't think we are required in any way to help this local business. But if Richmond Hill Soccer Association has some time that's not used in these new facilities, then it would be great if another group were to take advantage of empty space or fields that are not being used. But in the meantime, for me, Mr. Mayor, it's about getting the Richmond Hill Soccer Association enough fields, adequate fields, so that anyone who signs up and registers for soccer in Richmond Hill under our publicly supported nonprofit associations, both in Oak Ridges and Richmond Hill, that we have field times to provide to those two local nonprofit groups. That's my concern. I'm looking forward to this report that's going to come back, and I will support, certainly as budget chair, the funding required and whatever it takes for us to get our soccer fields up to the adequate demand level that we need. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So I'm looking for a seconder. The next person on the list is Councillor Silovitz. Are you willing to second this, Councillor? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I am willing to second. Thank you. Thank you for putting the motion on the floor, Deputy Mayor DePaulo. I believe that in the staff report, it does state that there is a need to undertake an investigation. So what I agree with is that we allow and we permit staff to continue on that road. They are on the right road. I fully support their staff report and their staff recommendations. And I understand and sympathize with the kickoff group, but I say this with the deepest of respect. We are a public organization, and we are not in the business of supporting one for-profit entity over any others. That's not what we do as a public entity. So that is something that perhaps also needs to be discussed here. But I do believe we're going in the right direction. And this is not a matter of us choosing one over another. This is a matter of us being able to give everybody the appropriate time and to play their sports under their flags. So I do second this motion, and I believe staff are going in the right direction. We will get a more fulsome answer within a few months. And I believe that we should be waiting for that. That would be prudent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. The next person on the list is Councillor Barros.
Thank you. So my one question to staff is, who can you direct me to get some of the more detailed specifications so that I can have that conversation offline?
Commissioner?
To you, Mr. Mayor, my suggestion would be that Councillor Barros, you formulate your questions, direct them to me, and then I will have the appropriate staff assemble a reply.
Oh, so you don't want me to speak specifically to the person if I have a follow-up question in that direct answer?
Through Mr. Mayor, I'm just trying to be efficient in making sure that we get the right team available rather than having individual staff answer individual questions, which may not which may conflict with each other. In an attempt to be efficient and get the proper answers so that we are consistent with our technical analysis.
Those are a lot of $20 words. Thank you very much. So it appears that a commissioner, a director, and a manager can't answer the questions. And now I've just got to send out emails and they'll go find them. And okay, that's how we have to operate here. That's how we're going to have to operate here. It's disappointing. It's very disappointing that those specific details weren't in the report. The report was very vague. I agree with Councillor Prelli from that perspective. I have a question, though, through the mayor to the president of the Richmond Hill Soccer Club.
Okay, we've been through this, and based on what we realized in the last round, we aren't asking. It's not in our procedure that we would normally ask delegates once it's on the floor.
Okay, so that's unfortunate. He's here. I'm going to make my comments without the ability then of having him afforded the opportunity to reply. I'm sorry, sir. So it's been said that the for-profit club that is in Richmond Hill is offering rates lower than the non-for-profit clubs. And I'm curious as to why that is. But unfortunately, we won't be able to get the answer because we're not going to give people the opportunity. So perhaps, sir, we could speak offline together and I could get that answer. I was hoping the public could hear that, because we seem to have members of council trying to think that council or some councillors are trying to benefit a private business. And that's not at all what I see. I see families in Richmond Hill that want to participate in soccer. I see families in Richmond Hill that want to participate in all kinds of activities. And we endeavor to facilitate all of those different types of facilities for our children, for our adults, for our seniors. So we will endeavor to continue moving forward on this. The motion, while not overly decisive in timing or specifications, is I guess some could say it's a small step forward. However, it's been moving forward for a long time. Maybe forward is the wrong word. It's just been moving. People have been looking at things. They've been reporting on things. Given the amount of time that it's been out there, I would have expected a more detailed analysis in this report to the exact question of how close can domes be? That would have been something that would have been, good to have in there. And apparently across the breadth of knowledge in our staff, that wasn't something that anyone had the answer for. So I don't know if it was and I'm sure they'll go back and they'll figure it out. I don't know. You've left me wondering. And, sometimes when you don't get enough information, you just start to wonder. I wonder if someone just said, they're probably too close, so we wrote that off. Or was there a technical analysis of how close they can actually be, and it fell within or without that threshold. I don't know, but I'm left wondering when I don't see it in front of me. So I'll vote in favor of the motion, just to hopefully get something at some point, but it's not overly reassuring with what we've seen in the past. And you know what they say sometimes, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So it took an awful lot of action, and the Richmond Hill Soccer Club and the Oak Ridges Soccer Club was heavily involved when we got our first dome. It wasn't just doing the same thing over and over. Representatives from the community came out. Richmond Hill Soccer Club at the time even pledged money. Now, we didn't take their money because we didn't want to be seen as giving some preferential treatment to one club over another. But I believe it was because of that pursuit of the need that we finally took action on this council. So here we go again. I hope we get that same kind of initiative and push and action to see this second one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I think it just, if I may, it bears mentioning to all members of council that if you have, like, the agenda gets published a week in advance. If you have questions that are not included in there, it's completely appropriate to be reaching out to staff once the agenda is published up until the time of the meeting, and then ask questions at the meeting, of course, too. But I mean, I certainly, I've done that on many occasions where there's been an aspect of the staff report that's missing for probably good reason, but I'll phone staff up, email staff, whatever, find, hey, ask this question, and you're certainly welcome to do that in advance of the meeting. The next person on the list is Councillor Munch.
Good day. A good discussion. I hope people are watching. I'm going to start by saying thank you to the delegates, and I would encourage every delegate to engage with every member of council, certainly with me in any way, because we don't get in your information and we can't have a wholesome dialogue. I'm going to start there. Thank you for your presentations, and I'd like to have more. This is a really tough topic for me. The reason for that is who sets the vision? I think it's really unfair to put staff in a position to do everything. And some staff have become political, and that's our fault as politicians. It's my view, and I'd be willing to bet you that most of the public feel this way. It's only inside of municipal governments and governments do we believe we're in a bubble. Hear this often from many others. Who sets vision? Shouldn't staff be saying, hey, look, I go to work and do my job. And I want to do my job the best. I don't want to get in the middle of the fray. I just want to do my job. And I'm going to work the best I can with my teams. As soon as council or staff move to the element of becoming a visionary or a direction or an opinion, or they put a priority without explaining the other priorities, open staff up to problems. And they get away with it sometimes, and they like it sometimes. I can say this, we're going to an in-camera report. We know why that is, folks. Shame. It's my view, has been consistent, and I said it during the mayor race. If people want leadership, you should hold leadership accountable. And if council says staff are the leadership, then we will hold staff accountable for that. And if those members of staff choose to get political, I will gladly take that on. I won't do your job. You choose to go in my realm, I'm in. Why are we here today? I want soccer fields. I want pickleball fields. I want all sorts of sports. How do we do that? Now, we have the intellect here for most people in this chamber today, maybe some out in the public, that we're experts at how government works. Some have more prosperity or understanding than others because we have silos here. Some people may not have known some of the assets that we have because it's not in that specific area of expertise. So that's why the Commissioner of Planning was saying, I need to engage other staff members because I don't know everything. And for that, you earned a bit of respect. But it also demonstrates why we need to have council accountable and up here and set the vision. So if we want soccer fields, I'm saying to the soccer community, you might want to reach out to members of council because there's a whole bunch of things you're not aware of. Because if you want to spend $12 million an acre and you're asking for 2 or 4 or 5 or 6 acres of it, where's that money going to come from? We have options. Should staff be deciding that? Should housing affordability and future residents be responsible for that? Should people from outside the community who are using those fields be responsible in user fees? How do we set priorities and who does the vision? It's a question I ask often because we can be a heck of a lot better. Heck of a lot better. We could also be a heck of a lot worse. We're doing pretty good. We could be better. And I want to be better. So when we ask people in good faith, we hope they're engaging in good faith. Me, which is maybe a little bit, I'm learning, when I ask a question, it is an open-ended question more often than not, 90% of the time. But when people give me nonsense answers or average answers or mediocre approaches by a professional, I start to question. How can people in the soccer field and the other delegates expect professionals? So the councillor to my right, Ward 1 councillor, said, how can one area get a better output and service than another? I don't know the answer to that. Could be good reason, could be not reason. Maybe there's a choice, all sorts of reasons. But we need to have a wholesome discussion about it. Because otherwise we're picking a lottery numbers. Who are we going to choose? This person, the other person. I have a position of what a government should do versus a private sector should do, because government cannot be all things to all people and be efficient and be effective and offer housing affordability and give family opportunity and give high income earners and have a safe and vibrant community. If we have pickers or choosers, lots of democracies around the world say, I'll pick a winner for you and I'll pick a loser for you. Is that what we want? So in closing, I'm going to say, I encourage the discussion to continue. Maybe we'll have a second round. I encourage all the delegates, speak up because you're not doing enough. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't see, Councillor Shepherd, go ahead.
I think we've all demonstrated the need. We all agree that there's a need for more soccer facilities in the city. There's no doubt about that. But I also think that we need to be prudent with our investigations to ensure that when that decision is made and when we are spending the money that we need to build that facility, that we're making a wise financial decision. The staff report, I think, in my opinion, very adequately laid out some options. They've done a study of potential sites. They've given us some recommendations. And in light of the fact that they're coming back to us fairly quickly with their further recommendations, which I hope will include the answers to the questions that Councillor Barrows put forth, I think we'll be in a better position to decide it when we get the revised staff report. So I'm okay to support this motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next person on the agenda on the list to speak is Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm okay to support the motion in front of us, and I would like to thank staff for a very fulsome report, very good analysis. The fact that this is challenging, I would like the public to understand. When you look at the report, 4 out of 5 suggestions are in the North Leslie area. It speaks volume that Richmond Hill does not have a lot of land to accommodate a soccer field or a dome. So this is, I think, the public has to be understandable that this is a challenge, I think, apart from money that the city is facing. And the fact is, we are only half the size of Markham, and we only 1/3 of the size of Vaughan. And to find that big piece of real estate for a soccer dome, it is not easy for us. Not that we don't want to. I think Councillor Shepherd said it well. I think nobody on this council is saying no to a soccer dome, but we need time and we need to invest some, do some investigation to actually find a good location for that. And I think council demonstrated that commitment, but we all need to be patient. And I also did some research because I heard Councillor, my colleagues asking how close is too close of 2 domes. I just did some research in Edmonton. There is a super dome that has 4 soccer field under 1 bubble. and that's only for 7-man soccer to be accurate. But that's an idea. I don't know. I'm not saying Richmond Green we do one bubble with 2 fields, but that's something for us to think about, for staff to go back and think about. That might resolve the too close, the snow problem. Let's be creative, and I look forward for the staff to come back with a report. And I totally support the motion in front of us, and I hope the public understand our difficulties. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Liu. So seeing it, nobody else on the first round, I'll just add a few of my own comments.
Yeah, when you're done, Mr. Mayor, you can look in the corner and you'll see my hand's been up.
Yes,
for
I actually see that, Councillor Pirelli, and you will be the first person on the next round based on your virtual hand being up. Thank you. So I think we've actually we've been saying a lot of the same things up here, which I think is good. I think none of us, I would have to assume that none of us up here think that there isn't an urgent need for a number of different recreational facilities. And now that we're talking about soccer being one of them. I haven't heard anybody say that we don't need another soccer bubble. We clearly do. It is quite clear from listening to both of the community soccer clubs and Kickoff GTA that there's a capacity issue, and I think there is no question in my mind that the building another soccer bubble will probably get filled up pretty quickly, and that's great. I mean, on one hand, I think I would like to just send a message to staff. I support the motion that's on the floor, and I would reiterate, because it's already there, so I'm just reiterating that we need to move as quickly as we can. In this case, I mean, we need to find a place for this. We've done some preliminary investigations. Obviously, staff is going to be taking a much harder look at all of the different possibilities, and perhaps even some that will come up during the investigation that we haven't, looked at yet. I have total faith that we'll do that. And as a councillor showing, leadership, I will say that I think that we probably say up here, I don't want to put words in everybody else's mouth, on council, but I think we would all probably say that we want to get this done as quickly as we possibly can. So staff has outlined a very good report in how we move that forward, and I believe that they're moving forward in an expeditious and efficient way. I think all of us on council will be encouraging them to continue to do that, and I think that is our best way forward, and so I would encourage that to happen. Okay, so anyway, that'll be it for me on this round. I do have Regional Local Councillor Pirelli wanted to speak on a second round. So go ahead, sir.
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Chairman. This is my first time speaking to this motion.
It is, but it is your second time speaking. You used your 5 minutes in the first round, and now you're speaking on a second round. So go ahead.
Through you to the clerk, how many opportunities do we get to speak to a motion? I'm sorry, should I repeat the question?
No, I apologize, Councillor. I wanted to make sure I was reading the exact rule from the procedure bylaw. Section 5.7.4 of the procedure bylaw says a member may only speak twice on any motion other than a motion referred to in paragraph B, which is a motion to amend, and for no more than 5 minutes each time, except that a member shall not speak more than once to a motion until every member who wishes to speak on that item has spoken.
Well, thank you for reading it. I was challenging the mayor's interpretation. I'm suggesting that I have not spoken to the motion yet, and this would be my first speaking to the motion. Would that be correct through you, Mr. Chairman, to the clerk?
To you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. Through the mayor, the procedure bylaw is silent on the issue of speaking on an agenda item before the motion is made. Historically and traditionally, council has in my experience, interpreted that mean that, if you speak, you speak for the 5 minutes, that's your first time on the first round. Now, if that's not council's understanding of the procedure bylaw, if that's not council's interpretation of the bylaw, that is certainly up for council to decide. That's all I can say is it's silent on the relationship between speaking to a motion and versus speaking to an agenda item. But historically, council has interpreted that if you start speaking, that's your first round.
Just to add, Councillor, in this council, whenever we are speaking, it's almost always the case that the first person to speak will speak and bring forward a motion. I assume that you would be bringing forth the motion. You chose not to do that, but it certainly is the way that we do things around here, that we get 2 times to speak during a debate. So I would consider this your second time to speak. And I'd be happy to hear you go ahead whenever you're ready.
Great. I want to move an amendment. Now, is that speaking second time to the motion, or am I speaking to the amendment now? Through you to the clerk.
Mr. Clerk, usually that's the second time, but Mr. Clerk, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
So thank you. Through Mr. Chair, the procedure bylaw does say that you can speak twice to any motion other than an amendment, which is once. It would be my advice that it really is determined based on when you move the amendment. So if you've, for instance, and this is just my recommendation, like if you've spoken, if you're in a round and you're speaking and you move the amendment towards the end of your speaking time, you've dealt with that round, and then you can, of course, speak to the amendment for up to 3 times. It's a qualitative sort of judgment here based on how time is used. I apologize that I can't be any more clear on that, but that's really the best way I can put it.
Well, that's why I asked the question. I'm not speaking to the motion. I asked the question. I asked the second question. Now I'm moving an amendment. Is that my second time speaking, or is that my amendment?
Councillor Pirelli, I think based on what the clerk is saying, I mean, normally I would suggest that the second time that you speak is the second time that you speak. If you've got an amendment, go ahead and make it. And if you need, some extra time to speak, that's fine. But I'd like you to make the amendment as early in your comments as possible.
No, Mr. Mayor, I'm not asking for special dispensation. I'm asking for the ruling so that I know how to gauge my time. Am I speaking to the second round, or am I speaking to an amendment? Because if I'm speaking to a second round, I will use 5 minutes. If I'm speaking to the amendment, I'll move straight to the amendment and reserve my second speaking round for the main motion.
Mr. Clerk, there doesn't seem like there is a clear and decisive answer on that. Can you offer some advice that we can go on?
Point of information.
Councillor Barros, point of information.
It's been generally agreed and understood in this council that if someone is given the floor and they say, I have an amendment, it is not their first or second time speaking, it's to the amendment. That's what we've always experienced here in the 16 years I've been here. Now, if you speak for 2.5 minutes and then say I have an amendment, you've used up your 5-minute allotment.
And that's essentially what Mr. Clerk, I think, was saying. So,
exactly.
Mr. Pirelli, if you've got an amendment, then go ahead, give us your amendment, and we'll go from there.
I'll give you my amendment when you give me your ruling.
If you make your amendment in the first bit of your speaking time, then it will not be your second round based on what we've heard. So go ahead.
You have heard what I said. I asked 2 questions and I moved an amendment. Am I speaking to the amendment?
Yeah, you are speaking to the amendment. If you make that amendment at the beginning of your time, if that's what you choose to do, go ahead.
Okay, I'll ask. You keep not answering and I'll keep asking. I said in this specific instance, I have moved an amendment at the beginning of my speaking. Is it your ruling that I am speaking to the amendment, or have I exhausted my second round?
No, that would be the first round on your amendment based on what we've just heard.
Thank you.
So go ahead.
My amendment. Mr. Chairman, members of council, I am delighted with this report. It gives me hope. It states here that a second bubble is not possible in writing. And it speaks further on the accumulation of snow between the two very closely located bubbles would make snow clearing impossible. I heard different from staff. I didn't hear impossible. I heard problematic. Also, that the current pickup and drop-off area, and I believe this is what Councillor Liu was shaking his head to when I asked, are there any other problems of the area? Existing bubble is highly congested. Again, this does not sound like an impossibility. It sounds like an inconvenience. And I think it's more important to have a bubble and a soccer field that Kickoff GTA can accommodate those up to 1,000 Richmond Hill residents and their families. And therefore, my amendment is going to be this, that I would like staff to report back with how much it will cost to make that second field, the west field, suitable for either a bubble over it or the bubble over the east field to be removed and one bubble be put over both fields. How much will it cost to make it happen? That's what I want to know. Those are the questions that I had that they couldn't answer. And as Councillor Barrow said, and Councillor Munch said, we need to set the vision. So I want council in the next, whatever it takes, 30 days, 60 days, it shouldn't take longer than that for our collective staff to put their heads together and come back before summer recess, focus their attention on this one task. What will it cost to make it a reality? Because I believe it can be done. That's my amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So we have an amendment on the floor. Is there a seconder? Well, right, we'll get it up on the screen.
those that don't know, they did arrest somebody for New York 10, 15 minutes ago. There was an incident in New York yesterday, and there was an individual who was taken into custody, for those who didn't know.
Through the mayor, I'm about to display the amendment on the screen and would ask Councillor Parley to please confirm that that is what he meant. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I think that you might want to say that staff report back prior to summer recess on the feasibility and costs to install a bubble over the west soccer field at Richmond Green. I think we want to add, it's not just for the bubble. I want to make it clear, whatever it takes to make it feasible. The cost to make it feasible. In other words, I want them to say, to do what you want to do, Councillor Pirelli, this is what it's going to cost. I don't want them to come back and say it's going to cost $3 million to put a bubble, but you still have a drainage problem. So I want that captured in the motion. And I want to know if staff, through you, Mr. Mayor, if staff need any budget, if they need to go out to a consultant for this. So the answer is that does not capture my motion, no. If it'll help, Mr. Clerk, that staff report back on how much it will cost to get a bubble over an operational field, to make the west field operational with a bubble, or a bubble over both fields. But in either case, what will it cost to make it happen? To make it work? Because I see that if they come back with a number, it can be done by the end of the year so that these kids don't have another year of no home to play in. That's what the amendment is all about. Not the feasibility. Bring back the cost to make it happen. If it costs $1 million to remove snow between the two bubbles, then I want to know about it. If it costs $5 million to put one bubble over both fields, that might be cheaper than putting one bubble over this field with the snow problem in between the two. I need a solution. The residents of Richmond Hill deserve a solution. We know what all the problems are. So if you can capture that in the motion, I just want to know what's it going to cost, because this report tells me all kinds of problems we have, but it doesn't give me a solution. I want at least one solution that says, if you want to achieve that, councillor, this is what it's going to cost. And then this council can make a decision once we know the costs. Because as Councillor Munch said, do you want to spend 12 million an acre to buy a piece of land to build a soccer dome? Well, that might be an option as well. So let me read this again. That staff report back prior to summer recess on how much it will cost to install a bubble and required amenities over the west soccer field at Richmond Green, and the cost to remove the bubble over. No. I'm not asking them to remove a bubble.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Point of order.
Point of order.
The councillor had 3 minutes to move his amendment. He's 2 minutes over his time now. he could have came with this prepared. The staff, if he doesn't like the staff recommended, this was his original member motion. I think it's just out of order for him to continue to reword his amendment way past his time.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. We need to get this right, though. So, Mr. Clerk, Mr. Pirelli, go ahead. Let's get the wording correct on
If
this.
I could continue uninterrupted, I think this will go quicker. The staff report back prior to summer recess on how much it will cost to install a bubble and required amenities over the west soccer field at Richmond Green, and or the cost to remove the bubble of the east soccer field and install a single bubble and required amenities over both the east and west soccer fields. So just and that would be perfect, Mr. Clerk. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we have an amendment on the floor. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? I don't see a seconder for this amendment. Okay, Councillor Barros. Do you want to speak to it?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Regional Councillor DePaula.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now that we've been, that we have amendments in front of us that we can talk about, I really urge council to go back to the motion, the main motion, to reject this amendment, to leave it open in staff's hands. This is simply an attempt to get to pin down a number, or however impossible, to just have this discussion come back to council one more time, where we're put in a position to vote on the installation of a soccer bubble in an impossible time frame for a ridiculous cost, just to put this council in a compromised position, rather than moving forward in the prudent way that our staff has recommended. We do all recognize there's a need for a soccer bubble in Richmond Hill. We are working together to achieve it and get there at the fastest possible time frame. There's no question that our staff is doing everything that they possibly can, but there is no way that this can come back again before summer recess. Mr. Mayor, I just appealing to council's sense for just some civility with our process and what's going on here. We've had this member motion on pickleball and soccer. We discussed it. Then we're here today. Staff scrambled together 2 reports, excellent reports, and they should be supported and moved, I believe. And now this councillor, through this amendment, is attempting to get both these issues back. This issue again, we've spent over 5 hours today on a council meeting with all kinds of other items that need to be discussed. And why do we have to spend another 5 hours before the summer recess to just have the same information in front of us again? The councillors are welcome to work with staff in between meetings. Staff has done an incredible job responding to these ad hoc member motions that can continue to appear before council without any thought or consideration. So I'm against this amendment. I implore council to not support this one. We've already got pickleball coming back. Let's not have soccer coming back, just for the purpose of stalling. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I have anybody else on the. Okay, Councillor Munch.
Sorry, my fault. I didn't flag in time. Thank you. Again, further to my comments earlier, pretty tough when we could do a whole bunch of reports and get staff to go out there and do that and hire somebody or do it themselves or give their wholesome approach. I'm in favor of looking how we can create a vibrant, wellness, healthy society. Okay. I'm very concerned that we have such a great opportunity here. for those that are getting older like myself, I guess we're all getting older, but I'm getting really old. Our quality of life and our health of that quality of life tends to be a little bit more, especially when you get injury or something to that effect. And recreation and our standardization of healthcare all go hand in hand with, a vibrant community, along with safety and security and affordability and all the other stuff we do. It's really unfair to expect report after report. We have to kind of decide, our battles and what is our battle going to be. And I encourage us to have a really wholesome approach. And it's really unfair to keep doing these reports and spending money, coming back, having a debate and going through this banter. I absolutely want soccer. I'd love to see, a whole bunch of other things. I have some people from India who are asking me for some cricket courts, and we have people who are asking for pickleball and tennis and bocce. Absolutely. But we can't do it all. Nor should we. So we have to kind of decide, given our resources and our longevity going forward. This has to do with planning, folks. And if Parks and Rec aren't talking to planning on a weekly basis, how can they put a plan in place? If we're not here committed to planning and growth, how can we expect more investment? It's full circle. And do we really want to do investment in hockey, or do we really want to do investments in tennis? Do we really want to do investments in, martial arts? We don't. Why? Because the private sector looks after that. So we need to have also approach. I would say to you, I like the concept of getting information, but it has to be in its entirety. To just spin our wheels to do a process is unfair. And I think I'm asking council, maybe we should have a special council meeting to really talk about our vision and talk about where we're going, so we can direct staff, so we can have an efficient and effective organization. As Commissioner Kwan, said earlier, I want to give an efficient answer. I love that. I wish I'd hear it more often and actually committed to it, even more so. So I'm going to say to you, I'm going to leave this open-ended. I'll gladly talk to a discussion group of my colleagues. I've said it openly. I've said it in private. I'm going to say it likely in camera later on. Please, let's get our act together to build a great Richmond Hill and a fantastic Ontario for a healthy and quality of life for all of our community. In Richmond Hill first, obviously, and then beyond. So I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I cannot support this amendment based on, I think we should do a feasibility study first. Then we can talk about the cost. With the proximity to the school, and also with the proximity to the existing new neighborhood, the North Leslie, all the residents, we need to be transparent and accountable, and there should be a public process. This is like predetermined that we are going to put another bubble on Richmond Green, and I don't think that's what I am looking for. So if anything, you want a second bubble or you want a second indoor field there, let's do a feasibility study first. I don't want the public have the impression that council already decided that a second indoor soccer facility will be in that vicinity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, let's vote on the amendment. The recorded vote, Councillor Silvitz. Mr. Clerk, go ahead.
Thank you. Voting on the amendment moved by Regional Local Councillor Pirelli. Councillor Silvitz.
No.
Thank you. Mayor West.
No.
Thank you. Councillor Liu.
No.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor DePaula.
No.
Thank you. Councillor Munch. Councillor Munch,
I'll say no.
please. Thank you. Councillor Barros.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Chan.
No.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd.
No.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor Pirelli.
Sorry, what was the question?
Sorry, you're voting on your amendment, Councillor Pirelli?
Oh, yes, please.
Thank you. That amendment fails to carry.
Okay, thank you. So we're back to the main motion. Anybody like to speak on a second round on the main motion? Okay, seeing none, the main motion, could you put that up on the screen, please? And recorded vote called by Councillor Silvitz.
Thank you. Voting on the main motion, Councillor Silovitz.
Yes.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor DePaula.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Liu.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Barros.
Yes.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor Pirelli.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Munch.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Chan.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor West.
Yes.
Thank you. That item carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Moving right along. The next item we had was item number 13.6. It was pulled by Regional Local Councillor DePaulo. So Councillor DePaulo, over to you. This is the Greening the Hill.
Yes,
progress
thank you very much, Mayor West. I merely pulled this out to congratulate the efforts of our staff on this initiative. The Greening the Hill initiative, going back to 2014, is just a phenomenal strategy that sets us apart from other municipalities. But in that, we are constantly measuring, identifying ways in which we can improve our land, air, water resources. And I just want to thank all the staff members that are involved and just encourage them when it comes to our environment strategy going forward. It's excellent, and I love the fact that we're seeking that input right now from the public on the environment strategy. And my input, I'm also going to add during that period. I think we can expand upon the different metrics that we use in quantifying how we're doing as a municipality in terms of our environment strategy. I think there's a lot of other areas and a lot of other metrics that we can include to measure as we go forward. And I'm looking forward to that debate, to that discussion and that consultative process. But I really want to commend staff on this environmental strategy accomplishments to this point and the process by which they're going to be updating our environment strategy. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I need,
of course, move recommendations in A and B.
thank you. So I need a seconder for that. Councillor Shepherd, any more discussion? Councillor Chan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, the mover for the motion. I echo his also very positive comments about thanking staff and also, of course, my council colleagues present and the past in terms of all these years, for my 16 years, it's really advancing, truly the greening our city, our town strategy. One aspect, so I'm supporting motion in front of us. Just through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to get a little bit more information to the extent that staff might have. And I'm glad to see in the staff report, I believe that is on page 3, if I'm correct. Because I've been seeing the charge station that usually not usually, in a number of years ago, it's only about a couple in the parking lot here outside 225 East Beaver Creek. And on page 3 in the report, it does mention that there will be a plan to move up from a level 2 to level 3 for electrical charge station. So while we're on this topic, through Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor to staff, can you enlighten us a bit on council as well as members of public who might be listening? Those are watching, what's the plan to the extent that you do have?
Okay, who on staff would like to tackle that? Okay, Commissioner Kwan.
Through Mr. Mayor, actually, I'll redirect the question to one of the report authors, Maria Flores, who's the manager of the project.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The EV charge station that is indicated on page 3 in the report is a charge station that is at the operations center, and we received funding because one of them was broken. But there is certainly the intention in our actions, even through the environment strategy update, to explore expansion of EV charge stations throughout the city. And identifying which locations in our municipal facilities are also most appropriate. So level 3 is the desired level because it is faster, but it is also much more costly. So that would also be predicated on obtaining funding either from upper levels of government or through partnerships. But certainly the intention is there that we would want to explore that further.
Thank you for the answer. And I, for one, that would like to see when there are more thought out plans with more concrete in terms of timelines, because there's no doubt, I don't have to mention about how expensive the gas prices are, but there's certainly movement towards more electrical vehicles. And this is an area I think the city can take a really strong leadership in providing more charging stations for probably more electrical vehicles to come in the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and support the motion.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion before us? Okay, that carries. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 14.1, which is a motion I'm putting forward. So at this time, I'd like to pass the chair over to Regional Local Councillor Deputy Mayor DiPaolo, and while I move this motion.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, happy to assume the chair. Go ahead with your motion.
Okay, thank you. This motion is, I guess in some ways, is a bit of a housekeeping issue. There were a number of assignments that I had as a Ward 4 councillor. And now that we have Ms. Shepherd as our new Ward 4 councillor, I'd like to move a number of those over to her. So the ones that are in question are the Heritage Center Advisory Committee, Heritage Richmond Hill, and the BIA. Now, to be clear, Ms. Shepherd is no longer the chair of the BIA. But as Ward 4 councillor, if this passes, she would be a board member of the BIA, which I think is very appropriate given that she knows what's going on in that organization and can hit the ground running. I'd also ask in this motion that Godwin Chan, Councillor Chan, be appointed to replace me as the council liaison at the Richmond Hill Board of Trade, given his role in economic development and the Recovery Richmond Hill Task Force, and also in the as chair of the Economic Development Committee. So that, I think it's fairly self-explanatory, and that would be my motion put forward to council. Over to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is there someone willing to second the mayor's motion?
I will.
Okay.
I
Ms.
will.
Shepherd, seconds. You want to speak as well? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Councillor Silvers, did you want to speak?
No worries. No, it's okay.
Okay.
I fully support it.
Okay, so the motion's on the floor. Anyone else want to speak to the motion? Okay. Councillor Munch?
Yeah, real great. First of all, I want to say job well done on the BIA chair. It needs to be said. And I know you're passing a torch. I'm hoping you still take that active role as the Ward 4 representative in the same role you did now. Those that don't know, I mean, we share the same board. David West, or the Mayor West, myself, and Rake are on that board. And very challenging group. So job well done, and welcome aboard here. But don't forget your priorities over the BIA. Thank you.
Okay. So seeing no other speakers, no request for a recorded vote. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. I'll remain in the chair. Mayor West, you had another motion. I think council would be willing to allow us to go to 14.3 at this point in time. I don't see any objection to that. Okay, so while I am in the chair, you can go ahead and move your member motion.
Okay, thank you. So this motion was based on an idea that was presented to us a while ago by a resident, and I was made aware of this a while before that. The idea here is to get staff to report back on the implications of doing this, but I would be asking in this motion is for us to be able to offer a campaign contribution rebate to people who donate to municipal campaigns. At the present moment, there isn't a rebate like there is for provincial or federal campaign donations. And it is my belief through the research that I've done that this will help people be willing to donate to municipal campaigns, which I think is important because it increases the engagement that people have in those campaigns. I've spoken to staff about this. It is not the way that this typically works in the other municipalities that have been successful in doing this is that they collect a little bit of money every year for 4 years and put it into a reserve account so that in the 4th year, which is the year of municipal election, then it's not as much of a burden all in 1 year on the taxpayer. But I also think that, given the short timeline and the information that I do want staff to come back with to vet this thoroughly, there wouldn't be time to do this, unfortunately, for the 2022 municipal campaign. But I believe that if it was all favorable, we could have it for the 2026 campaign. So basically what we're asking for is staff to come back with options on the structure of a program and criteria for the program elements, but also with the costs, the funding sources, and any other additional information to assist council in assessing the viability of this program. I'm asking that the staff would report back in June of 2022 with a kind of a preliminary report, and then a final report in December 2022, which would be in the new term of council, to let the new council decide whether they want to go ahead with it. But all the legwork needs to be done before that, because there would be budget implications in the 2022 the 2023 budget. So we need to get that to the new council as quickly as we can. So I hope everybody's had time to read that. It's was in the council package a week ago. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer what I can, but I think it's fairly self-explanatory. So that would be my motion at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mayor West.
Point of information.
Councillor Silovitz, did you want
Point
to
of information.
I saw your hand up.
Point of information.
Councillor Barros, you have a point of information.
Thank you. I see a motion in front of us, and the part that I'm not clear on, and perhaps the mayor can explain to us in greater detail. If I was to make a campaign contribution to someone and I received a rebate, who will be funding that rebate?
Okay, so point of information is for, if you have a question about the wording, that seems like a question.
It's not a question about the wording. It is a question about the motion and the understanding of the motion as per the procedural bylaw. The motion is moot on where that will come from, and I want to know before I begin debating later in this.
Well, you're gonna have to wait till it's your turn to speak. That's a question you want to ask about the motion. You're welcome to do that. That doesn't, to me, that's not a point of information. That's my ruling. Councillor Silovitz, did you want
Point of order.
Okay, Councillor Barros, another point of order.
Do
you want to challenge that ruling or?
No, not at all. You clearly have a clear majority. Why would I challenge you on that? Just so you can bend the rules to your favor? No. My question is, what is the definition as per the procedural bylaw on a point of information?
My understanding is it's used.
Not your understanding, the clear definition.
I'm going to be asking the clerk. My ruling is based on that understanding that it's when you have a.
Unfortunately, we don't make rulings on our understanding. We make rulings on the facts.
Mr. Clerk, can you answer the question that was raised in a point of order? I don't know how it's a point of order to raise this procedural question, I guess. But if you can, so I can rule. Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Chair, the best I can do in this situation is read the definition of a point of information in the procedure bylaw. It does define point of information means the procedural mechanism by which a member may present or receive information in relation to a motion under consideration.
So that's a question to the chair. And I mean, the provision is there that if I'm unsure, I can redirect the question. And, I stand by my ruling that you can ask the question through me when the time comes to get more clarification.
Point of information.
Okay. Councillor Barrows?
We're going to go back and forth until you answer the question. I got all day. So point of information, the motion I'm looking at in front of me suggests that if I make a donation to someone's campaign, I will get a rebate. Where will that rebate funding come from? It's not clear in the motion.
It actually speaks quite a bit to it. It even speaks to the creation of a fund. The mover spoke to, well, we would have to create a fund. The municipality would have to create a fund that from which those rebates would be given, but it's from the taxpayer. And
Okay, there it is. You answered my question. The taxpayers will give me a rebate. Is that what I understand? Very good. I can now frame how I'm going to debate now that I've received an answer to my point of information. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Silovitz, I'm sorry. I interrupted you twice with these points of orders. You were seconding. Did you want to speak?
Yes, no, I'll
Okay, go. You have the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you. I fully support this. I think it's a very, very good idea. And I look forward to getting the report back that will highlight and inform us of all the minutiae that is necessary with this particular motion. Thank you.
Point of information.
Councillor Pirelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I'm having a senior moment here. I'll get back to you. I just forgot my question. 1 second.
You're going to interrupt again when you remember? Maybe just wait till your turn.
You don't have to be rude, Mr. Chairman.
Didn't intend to be rude. Just
I know you don't intend it. It comes naturally, but please don't do it again.
Does anyone else want to speak to this motion? I have a hand up from Councillor Pirelli. Is that a hand up that you want to speak? Okay.
Oh, yes. I have a point of information.
You have a point of information. Okay.
Yeah, it says here in paragraph 4, the last half, it says to enable the required funding to be accumulated over a 4-year budgeting cycle. I do understand that the first point of information clarified that this would be funded by tax revenue. My question to the mover is, how much money are you envisioning in this 4-year period to be accumulated from taxpayer dollars?
Okay, well, I'm going to say you're taking too much latitude with the point of information right to interrupt. These questions you're welcome to ask, and everyone's welcome to speak to the motion. But item 2 of the motion, potential cost, potential funding sources, and any information to assist council in assessing the viability of the program. It's asking for a staff report that's going to give us these answers. So I don't know how much more you would need just to allow us to proceed on debate for this.
Well, I apologize, Mr. Chairman. You're absolutely correct. Through you to staff, what is your vision for what this rebate program will look like? What will you be investigating? Because clearly the mover and the seconder have not given their vision of what they would like to see the program look like. So through you to staff, what is staff's vision on what they're going to be looking for?
Okay, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. Through the chair, staff, if this motion passed, we would look at the legislative requirements and examples for municipal election campaign contribution rebate programs that are in effect in numerous municipalities, including some of our neighboring municipalities. We would look at the costs and benefits of those, the way the programs are structured, and we'd come back and present that information to council, and council could then debate whether it was interested in any of those or talk about its own structure.
Oh, thank you so much. That sheds so much light on it. Yes, I'll take the opportunity to speak if it's my turn now.
One moment, yes, your opportunity has begun, and the clock should have been started there. That was your first question. Go ahead.
No, that was a point of information.
I ruled that it was your prior question was taking too much latitude with your point of information rights. But go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. You're so kind. Well, Mr. Chairman, members of council, and more important, the tax-paying public of Richmond Hill. I think it's unconscionable to do the opposite of what Robin Hood did. You see, Robin Hood robbed from the rich and gave to the poor. This motion is the exact opposite. It's asking us to take from the poor and give to the rich. Let me explain. During any campaign, it's people who have extra money, not people struggling from day to day to pay their rent, to pay their taxes, to pay their bills, to put food on the table, that make campaign contributions. It's not those people. It's the people that have extra money, that want to help one of their friends or someone they believe in to be successful in a campaign. And I encourage them all to do that. We as elected officials, we do that all the time. We ask for people to give us money. And they do. But now to say, those of you that couldn't afford to give money, you are going to contribute to someone's campaign, and you won't even have a say in whose campaign you're contributing to. Because we're going to charge you extra tax dollars and give it to those people who have extra money. I don't see a scenario that staff could come back to us with any rationale that would make any logical sense of this. It's a complete waste of time to encumber staff, to waste their time to look into any of this. Any municipality that was mentioned in the motion, Markham, Oakville, Toronto, and others that are doing this, shame on them from taking money from the average taxpayer and giving it to the wealthiest in our community so that they can get some money back for their campaign contribution. Shame on anyone that would support this. I will not support robbing from the poor and giving to the rich. Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple other speakers, Councillor Munch and then Councillor Barros.
So for those that may not be totally familiar about the choices that's happened in Canada the last 15 years, we at one time federally had a taxpayer-funded model where if a voter voted, the government of Canada, through its taxation, would give a subsidy. So for example, if 1 million people voted for the Green Party, the Green Party got $2.12 per voter, or for that case, $2 million to launch their campaign nationally because they have a campaign concept whereby they have a party system. And many voters would say, what's the point of voting for the Green Party, the Rhinoceros parties? They're never going to get elected. What's the point? And the argument for that was fairness. That if the will of the people want to vote for a particular concept, they want that concept to be in the public realm so they could hear it. And it's very expensive to have a national campaign and to have advertising and signs, and they want to have a unanimous approach in how they brand. So that was an argument. And there were some like my...
Councillor Pirelli.
I don't believe this motion speaks to any federal campaign. This is about municipal campaign.
Thank you.
Where tax dollars are being used.
Okay, that's not a point of order. You're just disagreeing.
Yeah, of course it is
Thank-
a point of order. He's not speaking to the motion.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So the approach of taxpayer subsidy that goes to politicians is something that's in our history. And it was canceled federally. And it's illegal for municipalities to be part of a party system because we're a delegated authority under the province of Ontario in this case. So I find it hard when we say that, hey, somebody from Timmins, Ontario, if you want to give money to a councillor in ABC, the local property taxpayer or the local soccer field person who's putting fees, or the local senior club who's putting fees towards their facility, you should be subsidizing the political movement of people that want to run for office. And for that reason, I am discouraging if people have the means to pay, and if a particular person has a vision and has an emotional attachment, and others share that, go and run a Democratic campaign. And we're going to do so within the rules. And some people manipulate and try to politicize those rules or politicize the recipients in any way, shape, or form. And for those that do that and support this kind of motion, speaks of the hypocrisy of lobbyists, because that's what it is. Fundamentally, I believe we should be, as I do every business, and the corporation of the city of Richmond Hill is an economic. We heard things about business cases today, for example, business case of a government versus a business case of a, an oligopoly or a private company or a publicly traded company is open to discussion. But there's no doubt that a government's role is to provide basic services to its people on a balance, and the competitiveness of that municipality is realmed on its prosperity overall. For us, once again, when we're in the mature end of our life cycle, in austerity, when we're charging taxpayers money to make sure that our capital funds and other funds are operating, and here we are today saying, let's get some operational capital to give and figure out staff a way of which we can tax people more to give a political benefit, is not in the realm of what staff should be doing. Staff should be doing what we need them to do to execute, to improve the quality of life of the people that are in our community. This motion does not do that. This motion is simply a way, it's a political enterprise, and I don't believe this council should be putting political maneuvering ahead of the concept of this organization. So I understand people want to give. By all means, please give to whoever you want, however you want, in the most legal way that you can. But I have a real problem for someone that has more subsidized housing in their ward than all of the other wards combined to say to all those people, yeah, I want to let you know that we are here to subsidize. And I think many of them are going to say, geez, I'm really cared about nuts and bolts about getting my garbage and making sure I have clean parks and have good recreation. And heaven forbid, if I have housing affordability, I really hope you guys can help us with that. Maybe we'll have a panel about that. So I'm going to say to you, I hope you guys can think about it. I really hope that we can get to an intellectual capacity to talk about great governance and a great management and great leadership. Seems to be the flavor of the day for the day. I continue along that theme. I give that food for thought. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Munch. Councillor Barrows?
What more could I add? This is somewhat shocking that given the times we are in, we are going to end up going to the public. I say we, not I. I will not go to the public and say, going forward, even if you decide not to be involved in the political process, we're going to add some money to your property taxes to help support those who decide to give money to participate in the process. Absolutely not. That is not the core mandate of what we've been given the responsibility to look after from the province. Now, what I could support, if council wanted to send a letter to the province and to the federal government to ask that perhaps within those programs, there could be some dispositions for municipalities to do so. That could be something that we could look at. But to go to our taxpayers now and say, you need to help out the people that are writing checks for my campaign? No, not at all. I will not participate in that in no way, nothing at all, nothing to do with it. Those of you that do, you do it at your own peril. It is completely up to you. And I'm going to end with this, which is speaking to the point of information, which is 5.7.9. If a member has questions regarding a motion being discussed, the member may ask the chair for clarification or ask a question through the chair only for the purpose of obtaining information related to the motion. The point of information that I used previously was very correct. To the point. Our procedural bylaw instructs us so. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd and then Councillor Chan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been listening attentively to the discussion. I appreciate my colleagues' different viewpoints. And again, this is what democracy is all about. Each one of us might have either similar kind of thinking or maybe totally diametrically opposed kind of thinking, all for the discussion in open here. I have to stay up front. Number one, I believe that mover Mayor West is, I believe that's what he said, listening to one of the person who came forward to speak at a public session, I believe back in February. They're requesting for this. So I applaud him for listening to delegate coming to the public session and also putting this forward. At the end of the day, individually, as a councillor, elected official, or collectively as a council, we could say yeah or nay. And of course, public who are watching and listening and later on in all forms of media can pass judgment. I have no trouble in supporting this motion in front of us. I tell you why. Number one, this is not to say the mover is saying, thou shall have it, meaning the city of Richmond will have it. It is an attempt, if I understand it correctly, the wording is staff be asked to report back. Look, do an environmental scan and come back. Am I still have the floor, Mr. Chair? Oh, sorry.
Point of information.
Councillor Pirelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm reading the now therefore be it resolved A, that staff be asked to report back to council on options to establish a municipal elections campaign contribution rebate. Do I have a different copy? Because Councillor Chan said this is about a scan and not about bringing back a rebate program. Could you clarify that for me, please?
I don't think Councillor Chan inferred that this was a scam.
I say environmental scan.
I said
scan.
scan.
S-C-A-N.
Oh,
yeah,
maybe
that's
I
what
need
I
a cup
said,
of coffee
scan.
and a cup of water. S-C-A-N, environmental scan to see
said,
what.
Where does it say? Where does it say that in the motion, Councillor?
Okay.
Environmental scan.
I think the wording is clear. Councillor Pirelli, the wording is there. You can interpret it any way you want. The staff is going to report back on how this could be implemented. Of course, it'll be up to council whether or not to implement.
May I continue, Mr. Chair?
Continue, please.
No,
Thank you very much.
My point of information.
I've answered your question.
No, you didn't. My point of information is staff being asked to bring back options to establish a contribution rebate program? That's what the motion says. Now, if that's not what it says, if they're going out to see if we should investigate the options, that's a different question. I just need clarity on that.
I clarified, the motion is not saying for establishing, it's the options. They're going to come forward as to how we could do it if we choose to, as a council, do it. Right. Okay, now, Councillor Chan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for clarifying this. All I'm saying actually is also in the, I believe, the third whereas that the mover also mentioned, and that's what I mean. In doing any kind of planning, you look around and scan around the environment. That City of Markham next door is doing it, City of Toronto is doing it, and I believe it's not mentioned here. I believe City of Vaughan also offering it. So I'm sure their municipal council, when they deliberate, would have considered that. So, and I did say I'm supporting this because this is basically to look at the issue, come back for options, and then council, particularly not this council, the council next term would likely to determine, because I see that at the end of the motion, it talk about the final report is coming back by December 2022. So that's beyond the term of this council. So only one thing is I'm wondering, perhaps maybe put forward to the mover if it helps, is what would be the expectation for staff to come back by June of this year, considering report and decision would not be made until next term, which could potentially comprises of one or maybe none of any of us sitting right here now.
Mayor West is mover.
Okay, if I'm not answering this question, sorry, I think what you're asking, the preliminary report that would come back in June would basically answer some of the broader questions. Like how much would this cost? What would be the, how much would have to be collected every year in order to do this? Some of those things. I think it would be an important part of this based on some of the questions and the outrage that this has caused on this council, to maybe talk a little bit about, how it's been successful, or perhaps it has not been as successful as we might think in other communities. I believe from the research I've done, the communities that are doing this are happy with the program. And I would like to, be able to determine whether this is something that would benefit Richmond Hill. So I hope, does that answer your question?
Yes, somewhat. Thank you. Well, I guess the premise of why I'm asking that question is that if the decision is not going to be made by this term of council, and in fact, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe when this issue was brought up quite a few years ago, maybe 2013, 2014, or maybe somewhere before today, there was a staff report looking at some of what other municipalities have done. So I'm wondering about the value of having staff, because there are so many be upon them to do before the end or before summer session or recess. And I'm wondering about the value of having staff come back of opinion report that before the summer recess, while decision actually going to be made by next term of council. And if there's already a staff report being done a few years ago, perhaps I gather all of us on council or members of the public can look at that. They're probably retrievable, and you can look at the website, would give those information. Obviously, the most may not be most up-to-date information, but the most fundamentally, what are the different municipalities, the way they set it up, what's the percentage, to whom would be eligible for rebates, that kind of thing. I think the information are out there. I, for one, I honestly have questioned about the value of having our really staff who have been already asked to do a lot of things to come back to summer recess on these subjects. But I do support the motion, but I'm questioning about the true value of this interim report and having the staff to go through this to trust rush to have the report for us when we are not making a decision. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chan. Okay, Councillor Shepherd is next.
Councillor Chan more or less pretty much said everything that I wanted to say. I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing forth this motion. I think it's important that residents be heard, whether or not we all agree with the outcome or decision. So thank you for bringing it forward. I think that the wording is very clear. It's giving us options. Staff is to report back with options to establish. And one of the options perhaps could be not to establish the fund. So I think it's prudent we wait, we let staff do their job, and hopefully they can come back to us. And that's where we can pick up the lively debate and see whether or not we're in favor of staff's recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. I think everyone's had a chance in the first round.
Point of information.
Point of information from Councillor Barros.
I didn't see any reference in the report, but was there not a prepared staff report at I think it was the end of last term?
How does that question relate to the motion and understanding the motion? That it needs to be a point of information?
Because I'm asking about the motion and information. I'm trying to gain information from it. I'll ask the question in a different way. Mr. Mayor, did you speak to the clerk's office to try to gain previous staff reports on this exact topic?
Mayor West?
I believe the staff report that you're referencing from Richmond Hill was before my time on council. So that would have been before 2013. A lot of time has passed since that time. So I am aware of that staff report but no, I did not take a look at that. A lot of what's been happening with regard to this type of program is more modern than that. And there's other municipalities that have taken on this program in the meantime. So I think a refresh of that staff report would be in order in any case.
I don't know of how taking from residents and giving to other residents is more modern, but thank you.
Good. Now, Mr. Clerk, I just want to, when I hand back the chair, I want to set the right precedent. With these points of information, I think I just want clarification. I mean, you have read it to us. It was, if a member of council is misunderstanding something about the wording of a motion and needs clarification, they can ask the chair to clarify, and the chair can choose to. Is that Councillor Pirelli?
Yes, point of information.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm still not convinced what this motion is about. So through you to the mover.
No, you're not through me to the mover. You can ask me a question if you have a point of information.
Well, you don't have the answer to the question, sir. So why would I ask you?
Because that's what a point of information is. It's when you ask me a question because you're not clear on.
Point of order.
I have a point of order. I'm sorry, Councillor Pirelli. Councillor Barros?
Thank you. Procedurally, 5.7.9, does it not say if a member has questions regarding a motion being discussed, the member may ask the chair for clarification or ask a question through the chair only for the purpose of obtaining information related to the motion? Does 5.7.9 actually say those words? Not your interpretation of what you think might be happening here? Procedurally, is that correct?
Well, Councillor Barros, I'll have to agree that if you take the second part to mean that a question may be asked, but this is a flaw in our procedural bylaw.
But this is the procedural bylaw. Is that correct?
Well, we as a council, I'll be putting in a member motion to revise this aspect of our procedural bylaw.
The speed might change. It doesn't mean you can speed before the speed limit changes. Is this the current rule?
I will
yes
have
or
to
no?
adhere to the procedural bylaw as written right now here today, which means basically you and Councillor Pirelli can ask any question you want.
So you're admitting you did not know the rule prior to this.
Over and over.
And you were pretending you knew the rules.
You can ask any question.
That is irresponsible.
Related to the motion. You are correct.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Pirelli.
Mr. Pirelli, your point of information.
Thank you, Councillor Barros. So again, my point of information, Mr. Chairman, is very simple. And now therefore be it resolved A. It says that staff be asked to report back to council on options to establish a municipal elections campaign contribution rebate program. To me, Mr. Chairman, that means they're going to tell us what options there are for a program. Nowhere in there does it say they're going to tell us what the vision is, whether we should have one or not have one. So through you to the chair, to the mover of the motion, Mr. West, are you asking staff to come back with an opinion as to whether we should have this program or not, or how we implement this program?
I'm going to pass this question to Mayor West as the last point of information, and then I'm going to ask a member of council to have us suspend the procedural bylaw so this doesn't continue. Go ahead, Mayor West.
So the decision whether we have this program or whether
I'd like
we don't.
to move a motion to remove the procedural bylaw. If you want the wild, wild west, let's bring it on. That means there are no rules.
We're not doing.
So if that's what you want, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to move a motion to
Councillor
suspend the
Barrows, you're
procedural
completely
bylaw.
out of order. Do not speak out. You will be removed from these chambers if you do that again.
Doing what you
No
asked.
one's
Mayor West
removing-
has the floor.
No one's removing Councillor Barrows from the chambers.
To answer your question, the decision to do this program or not do this program, of course, is up to council. That's what we're here for.
That's not the question I asked.
That is
I asked,
actually the question that I heard from you.
Are you in
You're
favor
asking
of
about
a-
the vision. The
Are you
vision
in
as
favor of a rebate program, or are you going to make staff decide whether there should be a rebate program?
no, because the decision about the rebate program has to come from council. Staff's only presenting the information. So I'm not. That's the question that you asked. That's the question I answered.
So the information you're seeking from staff is, what does this rebate program potentially look like? Not if there should be one.
No, it would be what it looks like, because if council decides that they
Thank
don't
you.
like the way it looks or the logistics of it or some aspect of the program, then we'll not do it as a council as a whole. I mean,
Correct. Thank you, Mayor West. That's the clarification I was looking for, because Councillor Shepherd said one of the options is to say we shouldn't do the program, but that's not what your motion says. And thank you for the clarification.
well, of course, one of the options is to not do the program. Council can decide not to do the program.
No. One of the options that staff would bring back is not going to be don't do the program, because you're not asking for that. Are you asking for
I'm
staff?
quite sure that
Are you asking-
point of
are
information
you
does
asking
not
for staff?
allow for this type
Are
of
you
back
asking
and
for
forth.
staff to come back?
This
I
is
think I
out
have
of
enough
order.
information. I think I have enough.
Mr.
information.
Borelli, if you want to
Thank
speak on
you.
a second round, you're welcome to.
I'm happy to speak on the second round when it's my time.
Okay. Now, I think everyone that wanted to speak on the first round had an opportunity. I'd just like to speak briefly to the motion. I am curious, and I do want to see this report come back. I will support the motion as it's written, but this is something I've really struggled with. I've often wondered why municipalities like Markham and Toronto give these generous rebates to obvious, very, very wealthy people that are the ones who predominantly are contribute to municipal candidates in municipal elections. I always thought Richmond Hill was doing the right thing by not asking our property taxpayers to contribute to such a program. I don't understand. It's so beneficial to the lobbyist. It's so beneficial to, in my understanding, to the people that are contributing, that can afford to write $1,200 checks, and then they get a check back that we force our property taxpayers to give that money to these wealthy individuals. I've always struggled to understand why a rebate program is a benefit to the residents of Richmond Hill. but I do want to see this report. I do want to understand. I want to understand, does it help in some way empower people that are trying to contribute to municipal candidates that would not otherwise be able to? Is there some way, just demonstrated way, that residents in Markham or Toronto or elsewhere, have a greater impact in helping potential elected officials through having these programs? On the face of it, I just don't see forcing our residents to pay wealthy people money back, which they give today. They donate the same amount in Richmond Hill as they would in Markham. They're not enticed to donate. They just do it. Why we would make a resolution here as a council to give them money? I don't understand it, but I welcome the discussion. I look forward to hearing from staff. I look forward to gaining a better understanding. It wouldn't be the first time. I mean, in this term of council, there's been, three major areas where I voted one way, didn't understand. Upon further investigation and self-education, I come to a different conclusion. So it wouldn't be the first time. Open to the idea if this is another one of those occasions where, upon more education and research, I discover what the advantage is to our residents. So happy to see the report come back. I will support the motion on the floor. There's only one person I think that's indicated they want to speak again, and that's Councillor Pirelli, and then Councillor Munch on the second round. Go ahead, Councillor Pirelli.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, thank God we have these point of information so we can get a little bit of clarity. It so happens that I already knew the answer to the question. I just needed verification. It's clear, members of the public and the taxpayers of Richmond Hill, that when a person moves a motion, it's because they're looking and supporting that idea. The idea here is for tax-paying residents of Richmond Hill to subsidize richer people who have money to give to candidates. And as Councillor Munch so eloquently pointed out, some of them, maybe even the majority of them, don't even live in Richmond Hill. And you get contributions from Timmins and Vaughan and Markham and Toronto. And so the taxpayers of Richmond Hill, we're going to ask staff to come back with options on how much we should give back. Because we're definitely not asking staff if we should do a rebate program. That's not what this motion is saying. Because if it did, that would be the visionary aspect and the political aspect of this. That's not staff's job. Staff aren't going to tell us whether a program should be implemented or not be implemented. So they're definitely not coming back and saying, we believe that you should not do this. Staff will come back and say, here's the ways that they think of, and it's completely up to them. They're what's in their head. They could come back and say, we think you should give 100% back, 50% back up to this amount, 30% up to this amount, and they could come up with literally an unlimited amount of options on how to implement this program. But at the end of the day, what that program is, those options are all about taking taxpayer dollars from the poorest of our residents and giving them to the richest people in our province. I don't see why we would waste staff's time on this, because my answer is not going to change. I could never support taking money from any resident to support some other residents political contribution, especially someone who doesn't even live in Richmond Hill. And furthermore, Councillor Barros made a statement that he could, and I think he's going to regret making that statement, because he said he might be interested in learning about a provincial program. Well, I would remind Councillor Barros and everyone here that there's only one taxpayer. It's still taxpayers. And I don't believe that one taxpayer should subsidize another taxpayer because they want to support a candidate. So whether the money comes from the province or the federal government, I can't support it. And to waste staff's time coming back with the options, we know what all the options are. Council can do whatever they want. They can give back 100%, 10%, 50%. We don't need staff to tell us that. And staff are probably sitting there shaking their heads saying, really? You want us to come back with a report on what? On what they're doing in Markham and Toronto? That's all they're going to do. They're going to tell you what's going around in other municipalities and let you come up with a decision. Because this is not a vision of staff. It's a request from our mayor to take from the poor and give to the rich. And I can't support that. And I can't even support staff doing an investigation to this, because that's wasting taxpayers' dollars to do an investigation into something that we know we cannot support. And so therefore, I will not support this motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Munch, you want to speak again on the second round, and then
Yeah,
Mayor West on a wrap up.
A few things that I was going to say, Carmen Prelli, Regional Councillor Prelli just said. So I'm going to say it to the rest of council, because what I'm saying is, I guess what I thought was common sense isn't so common. This is a cost of having staff have to do their jobs and do their jobs well. My position is that when someone is given the freedom to do their job and the opportunity to do their job well, and given the tools and the opportunity in terms of safe and vibrant place to work, is really a luxury. It's not done everywhere. Consequently, when we have bad leadership and say, we're not going to give you that, we're going to get you to do something to waste your time and be inefficient, and we can do so because we don't have any cost components. So when I hear about a business case and members of council say, we don't have a business case, we can spend as much as we want, we can waste people's time, we can delay, we can waffle, we get to have that luxury. Now, some of our residents are fighting for livability, are fighting for trying to raise a family and have a quality of life and health conditions, and struggle between having a education and working at home with those single moms out there. And we here are sitting in our beautiful suits, if we're wearing one. And I say, yeah, let's go waste staff at hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I guess I would ask staff this question through you. How many people are going to be involved? What's the budget for us to do this? How many hours do you think this might take of staff's time? And if we save that staff time, is there a budget expectation that you could tell council? So if an average employee makes, for argument's sake, $75 an hour, that includes the overhead and that includes the benefits that our staff get that we're happy to give, and it includes the wage rate that they would like to make more of, but it's a good wage rate for as many people because it's above the median household income of what people make on an average income in Richmond Hill. So if we're going to say to our staff, please go out there and have our professional staff and go make a political engagement so we can come back with a report, because we want to use taxpayers' dollars today to go do that report. So I would like to know, you through the chair, has that been investigated, what this cost of this report is going to be? Like that first. So through you, the chair, to the mover, have they budgeted what this is going to cost staff to do?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question, Councillor Mudge, but it would probably be about the same cost as any other staff report that this council asks staff to do. I don't understand how this staff report would be any different. Some staff reports that council members put in, I don't think are a good use of time, but we as a council decide what staff reports we're going to put in and in what form and what questions we're going to ask and so on. This staff report is no different. This is an idea I think is a good idea. You don't have to agree, and that's okay.
So through you, the chair, can staff tell me how much hours budgeting hypothetically they think this might be done? Is it going to take an
Well,
hour?
the financial implications will be included with the staff report, but our professional
No, I
staff
want-
are
I want- I
here
want to know
at
the
the Willet
financial-
Council to report it on any request that this council makes. And I just ask council members to always be conscientious of the fact that there's a cost when you're asking for staff report. And the mayor answered very well the need and the reason for this request. And it's not overdoing it. We've got a lot of other requests for staff reports today.
So thank you.
I'm not going to put that out to staff. I don't think
So
it's fair.
you just said, and I'm going to paraphrase, I won't quote, but I'll paraphrase. You said that council members should be aware of what the cost should be of doing this. Then I'm going to ask you, because you just said that, and you're not going to take it to staff, and you made the decision. I'm not challenging the chair. No, please don't interrupt me. So I'm asking you, sir, you just said that we should be aware of the cost and members should be aware of that, and you're not going to refer it to staff. So obviously you know, because I don't know. So can you please tell me,
You took what I said out of context by paraphrasing. I said all council members, when they ask for a staff report, should be conscious of the fact that there is a cost. And then not the other
But I asked the
councillors.
question, what the cost is, you didn't refer it to staff, which means because you said you knew it. So if you refer it to staff for that answer and you know it, and I don't know it, and I'm the one that asked the question, would you please answer the question?
I don't think it's fair. We don't do that. We don't break down the cost of staff's work. They work hard. We respect it. They're paid properly for the duties that they perform. And they're, in my time in this term of council have been very good in accommodating every request of council. It's never been an issue.
So seeing you're answering the questions directly, sir, you're getting a salary to do a job, to be here. There are people who don't earn a salary, they're on an hourly wage and they have many duties. So as we make them have larger duties, might there be any overtime for this, or do we have further to the question?
That's a fair question. I'll put that out to
I'm not finished asking the full question because you're answering. I'm saying if staff have extra time to do all these extra reports as per the mover's motion that we move motions all the time and it's okay and we should know the cost and we don't know the cost, but some do, but some don't, what have you. So is this going to cost any overtime? Number one, I asked too many questions. Is this going to be any overtime cost? Do you have before I do that, do you know any idea of how much time it's going to be? And if it's not going to cost overtime, is that because we have people who have time on their hands of which extra tasks can do? So I guess those are three things, because this is a political engagement of saying we want to subsidize. So I'd like to ask those questions, please, through you. The chair can answer directly if he knows the answers, or if he wants to refer it back to staff, they can.
No, I wouldn't know that one. I'll put that to Ms. Jocelyn, our CEO. Is there overtime that you expect to be incurred in the creation of this report?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll defer the resource question to the clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. This sort of request is a normal request that we receive in the course of business to provide information to council. And I, who would actually be responding to this request since it relates to election matters and therefore comes out of my office, generally speaking, would allocate the resources necessary without overtime to respond to this request.
So
Councillor Munch.
Further to that answer, this is so through the clerk, through you to the clerk who answered that last question. So Mr. Clerk, you consider this a regular part of business?
Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. Through Mr. Chair, certainly. It's city staff's responsibility to provide council and respond to council's directions. So we do consider it a normal part of business.
And if staff don't answer what council's direction is, what happens then?
Through Mr. Chair, I'm not sure what the councillor is getting at that. If I could ask
that a trick question.
If council passes a motion, directs staff to do something, and that is not done in the manner proposed in the time frame, what happens then? Answering your point, you raised that. I'm just answering it back to you then, sir.
subject to any comment by the interim city manager, I would say that in my experience, and I can really only speak for myself, but we do everything in our power to respond to council according to its directions and in timeframes. If we are not able to meet a timeframe, we notify council. And if it's because we allocate, if because a project is taking longer than might been anticipated to provide the fullness of information, we would notify council, but we make every effort that we can to respond to council's directions.
Thank you. Oh, I haven't had the answer yet. Continue, please. You didn't answer my question. I'm not going to waste my time saying it again. Please answer my question.
Your question was if what happens in the case where staff does not follow through with the request from council, and the clerk answered. He said he would exhaust all resources to do so, and if he weren't able to, he would notify council of his inability.
And if that's not done, what happens? That's what I'm asking.
That's not done. They will notify us.
And if
council,
they're not, if they don't notify us.
Then council can ask again.
So again, are you answering for the clerk now? Because he raised that. Now you're answering for him. I've asked the question.
Speaking in his capacity as to what happens through his office. Ms. Jocelyn, do you have an answer for what happens when, I guess, things...
When there's a directive from council, I'm hoping it's not, please don't add to my time or take away from the time here. When I have to keep asking to answer a question. My question is not going to change. You brought it up. I'm going to continue on that. If a motion by council is passed and as a directive of council to staff, and staff do not do what council has directed them to do, and they have not given any communication back saying they are unable to do so, they simply do not do it in the time frame required, do not give notice. What is the situation in that case? What is staff's situation? We're always referring it back to staff. We're asking now as we're going back to staff, what happens if that's not done?
Ms. Jocelyn?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Staff would be following council's direction. If we were not able to meet the time frame for that, we would be reporting back to council that we were not able to meet the time frame and give you the proposed time frame we have, which we have done on many occasions in this term of council. But it is always staff's intent to follow through on the direction that council has provided.
And what happens if they don't? That's my question. It's the fourth time I'm asking. What happens if they don't?
Councillor Munch, maybe hypothetically we'll get there someday.
It's not hypothetical. I'm asking the question. You can't give me.
I've never seen an instance where that's ever happened.
No, come back to that, sir. Sir, I'm going to come back to that. Hold on. I'm going for the record.
There may be a perception because you didn't like the answer. The staff has come and said sometimes that they cannot, they can't fulfill council's wishes, and if council doesn't like
point of order, I'm sorry, but this is way outside of the boundaries of the discussion that we're having. Right now, we're talking about a motion that's before us. I don't know what we're talking about now.
You're correct. Thank you, Mayor West.
So
this doesn't really pertain to the motion. We've got to keep it to the motion. And your time's up, Councillor Munch.
How can my time be up? How can my time be up when I ask a question and it has not been answered and I had time left before my question was done? And I keep asking for my question to be answered.
You believe your question hasn't been answered. You didn't like the answer that you were given.
It's not that like that. Okay, so can you please, I've asked this the fifth time. I would like to know, and I timestamp at 3:52 to 3:55 on my watch here, and 3:55 on the clock here. The acting chair has said that he's not aware of it. I'm going to make mention of that, and I'm going to give a public notification of that if this continues, because you were aware of that, and I brought it up last council meeting on March the 25th or 28th, I can't remember the date. Now, having said that is number two, the clerk has come back with an answer, and my specific question was, if an act of council is approved and submitted to staff, like in this situation, and staff do not come back with notification or feedback as directed by council, what is done in those situations? And I have yet to hear an answer. Now, if you have an answer, would you please, for the record, my clock has 3:54 on my watch here. Okay. I'm asking if you know the answer to that. I haven't heard the answer. It's not what I like or don't like. I just want the answer. I don't care what the answer is. I just want to hear the answer.
The only time that we've even come close to not having staff follow through on a request from council. I won't even say that, but I think you might be referencing an occasion where this council voted in a majority to make a request of the province. And that request was refused by the province, and that was communicated by our staff to council.
So it's not the case.
We didn't like it.
It's not the case. It's not the
didn't-
case. It's not the case. Please, sir. Again, if you
no.
want to call up the motion, very specific, very detailed, very articulated. I have a note back from staff. We have a record of it. They said they didn't do it. You have forgotten.
No,
That's not what I'm hearing about.
Councillor
I'm
Munch, you
asking
don't
specifically
like
for this
the
motion.
response.
I
Like you
just
don't
wanna-
like the response right now.
The clerk brought it up.
Council
I'm
wanted
asking
our-
for an answer to the question that if council moves a directive to staff and
Yes.
staff does not respond and they do not give notification,
is
what
it's-
is done?
The answer is it's not going to happen. The answer is not going to happen. They will respond.
Okay.
And in the very least, they will state the reasons why they're unable to follow through, state the reasons why they can't meet the timeline. But that's what happens. That's the answer. I'm sorry. That's the best.
So your
Answer.
answer is that it never happens. It will never happen. Not even feasible, contemplatable that someone doesn't get it done.
If it does
In life.
happen, council will have to go back and ask staff what for a follow through answer as to where it's at, and our staff will respond as to
And
where
what
it's at.
happens if they don't?
I've never seen our staff not answer a question. I've got.
Okay, point of
our
order
corporate
again.
I just
services
want
can-
an
Point
answer
of
to the
order.
question. I shouldn't have to beg
Point
for an
of
answer to that
order.
question. Why are you filibustering and not letting that answer be heard?
Okay, Mayor West has a point of order, and I'll take that. Mayor
Okay,
West, I'm
I'll
sorry.
ask again. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. We need to get back to what we were talking about.
Mayor West is absolutely right. We have gone and wavered way off of the motion on the floor, and your time has been spent. I'm sorry you're not satisfied with the answer.
I didn't get an answer, and all I heard is, and that if for any member of the public that's watching this, and you'll see a notification.
you
In fact, I
always
might put
say
it-
that,
I'm going to
but
make motion to
everybody
this.
tries to answer your
Okay,
questions.
all I'm
and
going to
you're
say
just not
is you heard
happy with the
council, it's
answers.
public. I'll gladly, I don't want to embarrass staff, but now you're forcing me because now you're telling me
You're
it's
not
not being
going
done.
to do that. Well, we're in this chair. No one is going to embarrass or disparage our staff. Councillor Liu is next to speak. I'm sorry, Councillor Munch. Your time's up. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very interesting discussions, and I would like to thank all my colleagues for their inputs. I respect every single one of them. Everybody entitled to their own opinions. I understand that the intent of this motion is, Mayor West wanted to respond to the ask from the public that council look into this program. And I too would like to know how this rebate program is going to work, provided that other municipalities are doing it. However, the fact that this term of council is not going to make a decision, and the fact that if anything's going to happen, it's going to be in 2026, which is 4.5 years later. And the fact that, which I agree 100% with Councillor Chen, that having an interim report coming back in June has no effect whatsoever, because this council is not going to make a decision on this one. But I think the public would like to see a commitment from this council that, moving forward, that we are going to look into this. And the fact that, we're using staff time, in response to get report back, and then at the end of the day, it's going to next council. So, I just wanted to, for a compromise, I would like to make a referral motion, which is to refer this to the first meeting of the next council and let them decide whether or not they would like to look into this. We're not in a hurry of getting a
Common sense,
report.
thank you.
We're not in a
I'll
hurry.
second the motion.
No, we're not in a hurry of, getting a
I'll
response,
second the
because
motion.
nothing is going to happen in this coming election. So respectfully, I like this motion, but I don't want to create any confusion and misunderstanding from the public. Let's refer this to the next council. Let them decide. Thank you.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, there seems to be a secretary. I think, Councillor, you're talking about deferral if you're going to back to council, if you want to refer it to staff. So if it's a deferral, is that what you were looking for?
It's up to the clerk. I don't see a difference, but respectfully, if it's a deferral, that's a deferral. I don't have any problem.
The clerk's nodding here that as you requested it, that would be considered a deferral. So there's no debate on a deferral. There is a seconder. And I think it's been stated why.
I'll speak to the
Point of
motion.
order.
There's a time and
As a seconder, I'd like to speak to the motion.
it's a motion to defer. It's undebatable, but the time and place, the seconder
order.
goes ahead and then Mayor West. Yes. Councillor Barros.
It is debatable. It's
Only as the
debatable
time
on
and place and the suitability.
The time and appropriateness.
And the appropriateness. Time.
The appropriateness of the deferral is all that's to be able to be debated.
Okay, so go ahead. And then I have Councillor West. Mayor West, sorry. Go ahead,
Sorry.
Councillor Borelli.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Liu, for injecting some common sense into this. It makes absolutely no sense for us to request staff time to do this. Let's always keep in mind that when we request staff to do something, if they do it in the required time allotment, sometimes they have to push something else that's not as time sensitive further ahead. So somebody does pay for it time-wise. We understand that. And yes, although it's not a lot of time, it seems kind of senseless to ask for a report and we're not going to make the decision regardless. So excellent deferral. I say scrap it all together, but in an attempt to go along, let's push it to the next council elected at the end of this year and leave it in their hands. Thank you.
Okay, and Mayor West.
Okay, thank you. So the reason that I structured this the way that I did is that it is going to take some information gathering and that the time will be sensitive because if we were to go ahead and do this in the new term of council, there will be a budget shortly into 2023. So doing it the way I had suggested would give us as a council some time to determine whether there's merit to this program or not. I believe that there is. And then it would also give us time for staff to bring it to the new term of council for them to ratify it and go ahead with it, and then put any budget implications into the budget. If we defer this to directly, because remember, a deferral will not give us any further information. We defer this into a new term of council, there probably won't be enough time, or it'll be pinching time to get this in place, get all the information to council for them to make a decision, and then make sure that whatever implications there are from a budgetary point of view get into the new budget, which will come in very early in the new term of council. So if it's council's wish to defer this, that's fine. I won't support the deferral for that reason. I think it would make more sense to have the information in June, but those would only be my comments, given that I was the one that did the research and tried to facilitate some reasonable timing for this.
I don't see any other speakers on the deferral on the first round anyways. I'm not going to support the deferral. I really want to see this information come forward. I think the mover was very respectful in terms of his time frame. I want to give the next term of council as much time as possible. The time to if we do implement that we're spreading out that cost over 4 years. And I think it's always appropriate to have an incoming term of council have an issue out there with the information out there so that our public can decide whom they support on the basis of a candidate needs to weigh in on whether this is something they're for or against. I think it's very appropriate that our residents, in their voting behavior, can ask candidates for council in the fall how they feel if this issue is important to residents. So I think it is appropriate. I think the timing is right as originally proposed. I don't support the deferral. Is there someone else that wants to speak on a second round to the deferral motion, or as I call the vote? Okay, I don't see a request for a recorded vote. So all in favor of the deferral motion to defer?
Aye.
Okay, and against, opposed to deferring this motion? Opposed to deferring. Okay, so I've got 5 against, and the motion fails to defer.
Recorded vote.
Recorded vote.
Okay. Mr. Clerk?
Thank you. Voting on the motion to defer this matter, Councillor Barros.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Voting on the motion to defer this.
No.
Thank you. Councillor Munch. Thank you, Mayor West. Thank you, Councillor Liu.
Yes.
Thank you, Regional Local Councillor DePaula.
No.
Thank you, Councillor Chan.
Yes.
Thank you, Regional Local Councillor Prowley.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Councillor Silovitz.
No.
Thank you. The motion to defer does carry.
Okay, so I'll transfer the chair then back to Mayor West.
Okay, thank you. So it's 5 minutes after 4. I'm thinking that perhaps we need a break. What is the general consensus on council? How are we all feeling collectively? Let's put it that way. Okay, why don't we say it's a little bit after 5 after, so why don't we say 20 after we come back? Does that work for everybody? I'm seeing some nodding, some stoic looks.